Chapter 994. Dongbua Shui Ying was incomparably startled. Even though he knew that Mount Chai-mei was perverse and ruthless, and that he would open his mouth like a lion even when facing many cosmos gods, it was too overboard for Mount Chai-mei to grasp this opportunity to force him to take out 10,000 Origin World rocks as an apology. Dongbua Shui Ying was too lazy to care about this madman. He indifferently said, "Mount Chai-mei, I still have to continue investigating the Destruction Devils, so I won't be accompanying you anymore." The moment he finished speaking, "You want to leave?" Accompanied by a roar, Mount Chai-mei turned into a blurred bloodlight as he pounced towards Dongbua Shui Ying. This made Dongbua Shui Ying feel even more baffled. This Mount Chai-mei actually acted? Mount Chai-mei was currently filled with fighting spirit. He deliberately provoked and even demanded 10,000 Origin World rocks as an apology. Actually, it was all for the sake of fighting with Dongbua Shui Ying. He was even worried that Dongbua Shui Ying would not use his full strength. Hence, he was doing his best to provoke the other party. This Dongbua Shui Ying, I've heard that his destruction flower is incredibly powerful. His illusory realm requires me to use 70% of my heart force to resist against it. He will definitely pose a huge threat to me. That's precisely what I need. A true battle under extreme pressure might allow me to comprehend something, allowing me to break through the final bottleneck and become a cosmos god. The eyes of Mount Chai-mei turned red. Reaching his current identity and status, becoming a cosmos god was his greatest obsession. Wanting to become a cosmos god, fighting with his full strength when he felt threatened was the best way to temper himself. Xiao, Dongbua Shui Ying wanted to teleport, yet he felt the surrounding space faintly solidifying. He could not teleport and could only fly backwards at high speed. This Mount Chai-mei's attainments in the void are extremely high. He is comparable to me. He retreated at high speed. Mount Chai-mei turned into a bloodlight as he pounced forward. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed tens of millions of miles, and the distance between Mount Chai-mei and Dongbua Shui Ying was still shrinking. Faster than me, Dongbua Shui Ying became even more vigilant. Mount Chai-mei's figure was like a blood shadow, appearing and disappearing, very much like the state of void form. Boom! Dongbua Shui Ying, who was initially running away, stopped abruptly. Behind him, a gigantic fiery red divine bird, Cinnabar, appeared. Its wings covered the sky, and countless fiery red air currents filled the air, enveloping Mount Chai-mei. The illusions kept attacking. Mount Chai-mei furrowed his brows. Relying on ancient cultivation techniques, the illusionary realm attacked him again and again, forcing Mount Chai-mei to use 80% of his mental strength to resist. "You're not running anymore." Mount Chai-mei also stopped and stood in midair. "Then receive my attack first." A strange circular roulette suddenly appeared in his hand. The roulette was translucent, and it was very thin. It was so thin that even Dongbua Shui Ying couldn't accurately describe its thickness. Based on Dongbua Shui Ying's estimation, the thickness of this roulette was most likely about the same as the diameter of the black fog spherical hole. This caused Dongbua Shui Ying to feel both astonished and expectant. How strong was Mount Chai-mei exactly? Without a doubt, he was at the 9th level, and his combat techniques were unique as well. If he wanted to leave, no one would be able to stop him. Furthermore, he had a mysterious doppelganger. No matter what kind of tracking technique one used on his doppelganger, no one would be able to find him. Thus, his status was somewhat transcendent. "Go!" Mount Chai-mei tossed out the circular roulette in his hand. The translucent roulette instantly streaked across the sky. It was too thin. Its thinness was about the same as the diameter of the black fog spherical hole, causing it to be extremely sharp. In fact, it was even sharper than many secret treasures. Wherever it passed, even the void was sliced apart. Dongbua Shui Ying could see that even the black fog spherical hole had a few cuts on it. This was an extremely terrifying technique, and it could be ranked at the 9th level. With a single thought from Dongbua Shui Ying, the 9-petaled flower instantly descended. The huge black flower bud descended and easily enveloped the circular roulette. One by one, the nine-petaled flower wrapped around the roulette. Chi! The circular roulette soundlessly sliced through a nine-petaled flower. The instant it was sliced through, the nine-petaled flower was destroyed. The terrifying might caused the circular roulette to tremble, and its power was greatly reduced. The second nine-petaled flower was only able to slice through a little before it was completely consumed. If not for the influence of his illusory realm, I would have been able to execute multiple void roulette. Mount Chimay extended both his hands. A weapon appeared on each of his hands. They were both roulette weapons that were extremely thin. This was a pair of extremely precious secret treasures that allowed Mount Chimay to unleash an extremely powerful close combat strength. Usually, he would be able to eliminate his enemies after releasing several void roulette. But this time, due to the suppression from the 10th transformation of Cinnabar's inheritance, 80% of his heart force had to resist against the illusory realm. He had already exhausted all of his heart force to maintain close combat. Kill. Mount Chimay charged straight at Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang waved his hand, causing the nine-petaled flower to descend and envelop Mount Chimay. The nine-petaled flower in his hands wantonly slashed out, causing the nine-petaled flower to be sliced apart. The nine-petaled flower has the effect of binding, but its strongest effect is still destruction. Its binding can restrain those ninth-level destruction devils, but it is weak against Mount Chimay. Dongbua Shuang thought. Mount Chimay's void roulette was at the 9th level. Currently, by relying on this pair of roulette's secret treasures, his combat strength had increased. Exterminate. Dongbua Shuang thought. Hong, 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 hong. Many beautiful, nine-petaled flowers bloomed and were destroyed during the process. Mount Chimay could not help but roar furiously. He continued charging and killing, yet he was forced to use his weapon to defend against the overwhelming destructive might. Dongbua Shuiying's nine-petaled flower was endless. At the same time of destruction, new ones would descend. I actually can't win? Mount Chimay felt sullen. Even though he wanted to fight with Dongbua Shuiying to temper himself, he similarly wanted to win. He had not lost for a very long time. He felt that his talent was great, and he did not place any primal chaos experts in his eyes. He even looked down on cosmos gods. In his opinion, they were all fools who would eventually die in the great apocalypse. He was very proud of his lineage's legacy. He also felt that his combat strength was great, yet he could not win today. If not for 80% of my heart force being affected, how could I not shatter these petals? Mount Chimay gritted his teeth. He looked at that white-robed young man standing outside the revolving, translucent black petals. He lost, even though he was not willing to accept it. He understood in his heart that the illusory realm was a part of Dongbua Shuiying's strength. The other party did not even use any secret treasures. He is indeed formidable. Dongbua Shuiying watched from afar. He could not help but praise inwardly. Even though he is completely suppressed by me to the extent that he could not kill his way out of the nine-petaled flower, the continuous destruction of the nine-petaled flower did not injure him at all. His pair of weapons specialize in defense too. Furthermore, his attainments in voidification are quite high. He is even higher than me? Dongbua Shuiying admitted that his voidification was quite formidable. After all, he had reached the 50th level of Walker's hidden secret, and he had the inheritance of Emperor Jiyun and the scaled armor left behind by General Mo Gu, allowing Dongbua Shuiying to reach an amazing level in voidification. But it seemed that he was still slightly weaker than Mount Chimay. Chapter 995. Mount Chimay stopped and stared coldly at Dongbua Shuiying, who was standing in the distance. It only occasionally used the roulette in its hands to block the destructive power. It did not attack again. Although his expression remained cold, he was thinking about the earlier battle. My void will has yet to reach its pinnacle. If it reached its pinnacle, his black flowers would not have been able to block it. When the flower collapses and is destroyed, the attack will spread everywhere, and there will be nowhere to hide. The void will has to bear the impact. In his mind, he had the detailed information of when he had obtained the inheritance. As he continued to compare, he gradually gained something. Seeing this, Ying stopped as well. The flowers of destruction slowly dissipated and returned to the heaven and earth. As expected of the number one illusionary realm among all cultivators. Very powerful. If you don't have illusionary realm techniques, I can easily defeat you, Mount Chime said coldly. Mount Chime's void techniques are indeed powerful. Ying praised as he glanced at his surroundings. He had fled for tens of millions of miles just now, so the battle did not affect the countless cultivators in the city. Only during the initial eruption of Mount Chime, all living beings within a radius of 100,000 kilometers were wiped out. I still have some matters to attend to, so I won't be accompanying you any longer, Ying said. At the same time, the space beside him distorted, and with a step he stepped into it and left. This madman, the further away from him, the better. No matter how dissatisfied an unkillable lunatic was, Ying could only cast him aside for the time being. As Mount Chime was chatting with Ying, he was thinking about the battle as well. However, when he saw Ying teleporting away, his expression changed. He looked at the void in front of him in disbelief. That part of the void had already regained its calm. However, with his powerful perception of the void, he could clearly remember the ripples from Ying's super long-distance teleportation. This is... Mount Chime found it hard to believe. This is our bloodline's teleportation technique. How can he use it? It was too familiar. Their lineage's inheritance was extremely secretive. In the entire primal chaos void, there were only two people who could be considered as real people. One was the Myriad Realm Tavern Master, and the other was him, Mount Chime. Hence, Mount Chime naturally felt arrogant. He even looked down on those cosmos gods who were stronger than him. His arrogance came from his legacy. In his eyes, his legacy transcended all other cultivation systems. Ancient cultivation, laws and mysteries system, witchcraft cultivation, devour class system, the strongest warrior system, and so on. All of them were far inferior to his own inheritance. His own inheritance could truly suppress all other inheritances. This legacy allowed him, Mount Chime, to possess a special teleportation technique that could even be used by his avatars. He could easily appear anywhere in the primal chaos void. Furthermore, there were clones that could hide themselves, and no tracking techniques could find them. His combat strength was equally terrifying. He was ranked at the top of the 9th level. He and the Myriad World Tavern Master had transcended statuses. But now, he realized that Ying had actually used their unique teleportation technique. How could he learn it? It is impossible. Teacher isn't in the primal chaos void at all. Our lineage only has me and senior disciple Brother Myriad Realm. Even though we impart it to our disciples, we only impart it to the most fundamental level. Without cultivating to a sufficient level, without the consent of our teacher, we will not impart the core inheritance. Where did he learn the destructive realm teleportation technique? Mount Chime was slightly flustered. He was even more furious. He was clear. Those ancient cultivators might be able to teleport through an ultra-long distance, but they did so using spatial corridors and ultra-long distance teleportation techniques. Hence, not just the ancient cultivators, even the void primogenitor had to use his true body to execute it, because the burden on their techniques was too great, and their incarnations could not execute it. But the destructive realm teleportation technique unique to Mount Chime's lineage, the moment he comprehended it, the burden on his heart force would be minimal, and his incarnations could easily execute it. If his incarnations can execute it, wouldn't he be able to search for golden-armored, graded layers? Mount Chime felt frustrated. He was even slightly anxious. In his opinion, as the threat of the destruction devils became bigger, those cosmos gods would eventually lower their heads in front of him and ask him to search for them. Because his senior disciple Brother Myriad Realm Tavern Master had already become a cosmos god, and he was no longer anxious. He had already communicated with his senior disciple brother, and Myriad Realm Tavern Master would not snatch away this huge business of his. He had long sharpened his blade, and wanted to ruthlessly slaughter the cosmos gods. How could he stop if he did not get a few million or more than 10 million Origin World rocks? But now, Dongbua Shui Ying could execute too. With the personality of the other party who was willing to spend so much effort to search for the Destruction Devils, he would be willing to search for golden armored graded layers even if he did not want Origin World rocks. No, such a matter must not happen. The eyes of Mount Chime were filled with a murderous glint. If one said that he deliberately provoked the other party for the sake of fighting, now he was truly anxious. He was even filled with killing intent. The void by the side distorted. Mount Chime took a step before disappearing from the vicinity. His ultra-long distance teleportation technique was exactly the same as Dongbua Shuang. Within the nearest great city, there was a Myriad Realm Tavern. The Myriad Realm Tavern spanned across many regions in the primal chaos void. Every Myriad Realm Tavern had an old man within. Every old man looked exactly the same, and their auras were the same. They were all avatars of Myriad Realm Tavern Master. How many avatars did he have? This was a mystery. South, because the distance was very close, Mount Chime directly teleported to the first floor of this Myriad Realm Tavern. Other than the old man who was sleeping soundly on the chair, there were no other guests. Because the cost of meal in the Myriad Realm Tavern was too exaggerated and the food was terrible. Without special reasons, nobody would enter. Amen? The old man who was sleeping soundly opened his drowsy eyes. He glanced at Mount Chime, who appeared, and chuckled. "It's Chime. Why did you suddenly come to my place?" "Senior disciple brother, there's trouble." Mount Chime said. "Trouble? What trouble?" The old man stood up. He did not care too much. He was different from his junior disciple brother, Mount Chime. He had long become a cosmos god, and he could calmly watch the life and death of the world. His junior disciple brother, Mount Chime, was comparatively more anxious. Mount Chime said, "The destructive realm teleportation technique is one of the core inheritances of our lineage. You haven't imparted it to any disciple, right? Without teacher's permission, how would I dare to impart the core inheritance?" The old man shook his head. Mount Chime solemnly said, "I didn't impart it either. But that Dongbua Shuang from the Great Void Heaven Temple knows how to execute the destructive realm teleportation technique." "What?" The old man was startled. The destructive realm teleportation technique. This was the most commonly seen technique in the core inheritance of their lineage. Even though he and Mount Chime originated from the same lineage, in reality, they were leaning towards two different directions. Just like Black Emperor and Jezu, they were leaning towards different directions. Even though the two of them came from the same lineage, they both knew how to execute the destructive realm teleportation technique. This was the most fundamental method of traveling. Dongbua Shuang? The old man did not dare believe it. He is at the primal chaos realm. Where did he learn the destructive realm teleportation technique from? Teacher isn't currently in our primal chaos void. If teacher were to return, I would be able to sense it at the first instance. Right. I suspect that he relied on his illusory realm to search for the most fundamental cultivation technique from our disciples. According to the fundamental cultivation technique, he deduced the destructive realm teleportation technique. The eyes of Mount Chime were filled with killing intent. There are too many organizations in this primal chaos void that wish to learn this inheritance of our lineage. Those cosmos gods are all eyeing this inheritance of ours. This Dongbua Shui Ying actually has the comprehension ability to secretly learn the fundamental cultivation technique and deduced the destructive realm teleportation technique. We must not let him live. If he lives, he would most likely learn more. We must kill him. Chapter 996. The old man frowned and softly shook his head. I've heard that this Dongbua Shui Ying is currently the cultivator who specializes in the illusory realm. He relied on the illusory realm to discover the foundational cultivation technique of our lineage from our disciples. I believe this. But how is it possible to deduce the destructive realm teleportation technique just by relying on the foundational cultivation technique? You and I have reached a certain realm in the past, and were imparted by our teacher. Only then did we learn the destructive realm teleportation technique. Relying on ourselves to deduce it, Mount Chime anxiously said that Dongbua Shui Ying has an extremely high talent. How long has he cultivated to his current realm? Given his comprehension ability, it is not impossible for him to reach this stage. Amen, his talent is high. Myriad Realm Tavern Master still did not dare believe it. Relying on himself to deduce the destructive realm teleportation technique? According to what he knew, of the two who truly relied on themselves to create the destructive realm teleportation technique, one was their teacher. That teacher was someone with heaven-defying talent. The other was Emperor Jiyun, who had died a long time ago. Emperor Jiyun had once become a cosmos god in the Tao of Void and had reached the second level of cosmos god. It was understandable for him to deduce the destructive realm teleportation technique with such a deep foundation. But just the primal chaos realm Dongbua Shui Ying deduced it? That was too unfathomable. Learning a secret technique was comparatively easier. After all, the predecessors had placed the cultivation technique in front of them, and one only had to know how to use it. But creating the destructive realm teleportation technique was much harder. According to what I know, Emperor Jiyun knew it in the past too. Myriad Realm Tavern Master said. Did he learn it from Emperor Jiyun? Humph. Mount Chime coldly snorted. Is it important where he learned it from? It isn't. More importantly, after the death of Emperor Jiyun, the destructive realm teleportation technique became exclusive to our lineage. Now that Dongbua Shui Ying has learned it, we are no longer exclusive to him. If teacher was here, he would likely be willing to eliminate this Dongbua Shui Ying. Myriad Realm Tavern Master nodded. He admitted that what his junior disciple brother said was right. Out of the three of them, the Myriad World Tavern Master had the best personality. However, he still built the Myriad World Tavern and made countless cultivators become assassins, killing people everywhere. His temperament was cold and aloof, and he wasn't too willing to get involved in the disputes between various forces. However, given Master's temper, he would probably kill Dongbua Shui Ying for the destructive realm teleportation technique. As a disciple, he naturally had to do his job well. And let me take a look and see if he really knows the destructive realm teleportation technique. Once I confirm it, I'll find a chance to get rid of him. Myriad Realm Tavern Master said. Scarlet-browed, Mountain Master revealed a cold smile. He had eliminated Dongbua Shui Ying. In the future, Cosmos gods could only come and beg him for help when they searched for golden-armored, graded lairs. After a while, Myriad Realm Tavern Master quickly found traces of Dongbua Shui Ying. He used his avatar to spy on Dongbua Shui Ying from a long distance. Phew! The white-robed Dongbua Shui Ying was currently outside a concealed cavern dwelling in the primal chaos void. He directly cast his illusory realm to investigate the other party, and after confirming that he wasn't a destruction devil, after confirming that there weren't any destruction devils, Dongbua Shui Ying began searching for his next destination. Very soon, he confirmed his target and directly teleported to a nearby location. One could see the void by the side distorting, and Dongbua Shui Ying disappeared. He was searching through every single location, and the avatar of Myriad Realm Tavern Master was also watching stealthily. Destructive Realm Teleportation Technique. Myriad Realm Tavern Master had observed it many times. His old face became colder. It is indeed the Destructive Realm Teleportation Technique. He was 100% confident. Myriad Realm Tavern Master opened his eyes and looked at Mount Chime by the side. Senior Disciple Brother, how is it? Mount Chime asked. He is indeed using the Destructive Realm Teleportation Technique. It is time to get rid of him. Myriad Realm Tavern Master continued, but you have to question him personally so that it will be easier for you to judge. He has relied on the foundational technique obtained from the illusory realm to deduce the Destructive Realm Teleportation Technique. He even learned it from Emperor Jiyun. We have to try our best to sever that inheritance of theirs. Although Dongbua Shui Ying has only grasped a portion of it, It is still better to get rid of him as soon as possible. Amen. Mount Chime nodded. Donghua Shuiying was indeed walking on the right path. If he was given enough time, he might really be able to create a similar inheritance to theirs. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. In the wilderness, Donghua Shuiying appeared in the wilderness. He immediately used an illusory realm to descend, enveloping a hidden underground cave dwelling. Amen. Donghua Shuiying's expression suddenly changed. Not far away, a figure walked out from a distortion in midair. It was Mount Chime, who was emitting a cold, baleful aura. Mount Chime stood in midair, staring coldly at Donghua Shuiying, roaring, "Oh, Master Donghua, aren't your methods too shameless?" Shameless? Donghua Shuiying was startled. "Mount Chime, are you saying that I'm shameless?" Donghua Shuiying felt puzzled. "What did I do? Is it because I dealt with you using the illusory realm previously?" Mount Chime carefully observed the expression of Donghua Shuiying. If the other party had truly relied on the illusory realm to obtain the foundational cultivation technique from the ordinary disciples, he should have been exposed when he was being questioned. Naturally, this did not exclude the possibility of him being stubborn. "I'm not talking about this matter. You have been searching for the destruction devils all over the world, and I'm too lazy to bicker with you about the illusory realm. But do you really think that nobody knows what you did?" Mount Chime sneered. "Previously, you saw me teleporting through an ultra-long distance and saw my teleportation technique. Unless you still want to justify yourself?" Donghua Shuiying was startled. Teleportation? That's right. How good was his memory? Previously, when Mount Chime teleported over, the distortion of the void was exactly the same as his ultra-long distance teleportation. Both relied on the black fog spherical holes to teleport, and the disturbances were minimal. I believe many people in the primal chaos void and 5 great sacred worlds know about my ultra-long distance teleportation. Donghua Shuiying shook his head. "I've used it many times in the Void Castle. This is an innate technique I obtained after cultivating the ancient cultivation technique after reaching the primal chaos realm." "Why? Is there a problem with my innate talent in ancient cultivation?" "Innate talent in ancient cultivation? What a joke." Mount Chime pointed at Donghua Shuiying and roared. "This is the destructive realm teleportation technique unique to our lineage. The innate talent in ancient cultivation is bestowed by the supreme law, and what is bestowed is within the scope of the supreme law. The destructive realm teleportation technique has already started peering beyond the primal chaos void. So how could it be bestowed by the supreme law? What kind of joke are you talking about?" Donghua Shuiying shook his head. "This I do not know. There are all sorts of innate talents in ancient cultivation. Even the ability to alter the past by a small margin can appear. Even the prophecy talent can appear. So what about my teleportation talent? As for your so-called destructive realm teleportation technique, this is the first time I've heard of it. What you mean is that you didn't learn this teleportation technique by relying on the illusory realm." Mount Chime sneered. "Mount Chime, I don't have time to speak with you." Donghua Shuiying immediately wanted to leave. It was pointless to speak any further. "Did you learn this teleportation technique from Emperor Juyin?" Mount Chime suddenly asked. Donghua Shuiying's figure did not stop. He directly teleported. First, he hid far away. Standing in the air above the vast wilderness, Donghua Shuiying's heart was filled with many thoughts. "I thought that after I advanced to the primal chaos realm, I would be able to execute ultra-long distance teleportation without any flaws. However, Mount Chime's lineage seems to have a deep understanding of this. They even said that the innate talent of ancient cultivation is bestowed by the supreme law. This is something that can peer beyond the primal chaos void and wouldn't be bestowed upon. It seems like their lineage has a deep understanding of the primal chaos void. This might be troublesome, but Donghua Shuiying wasn't afraid. At his level, there weren't many things that could make him afraid. Just as Donghua Shuiying was about to execute his ultra-long distance teleportation technique, he suddenly felt a trace of killing intent within his law domain. His heart tightened. Chapter 997. Dongbua Shui Ying's law domain was constructed according to the illusory realm. Being the strongest expert in the primal chaos void illusory realm, there were very few who could infiltrate into his law domain stealthily. As long as Dongbua Shui Ying was at his location, an unseen law domain would envelop the surrounding 50,000 kilometers. It was just like the real world being enveloped by a layer of illusory realm. At the moment when the enemy erupted, Dongbua Shui Ying's law domain also erupted. The surrounding 50,000 kilometers region immediately turned grotesque and motley. Many layers of the world started distorting, and Dongbua Shui Ying felt as though he was standing in the deepest part of the many layers of the world. The originally calm wilderness on the ground started distorting and turning into an old man. The wild beasts that were originally sprinting in the distance also distorted and turned into an old man. Even the short trees in the wilderness distorted and turned into an old man. Deep within the ground, an old man formed. Many old men appeared, and a total of more than 1,000 old men killed their way into the law domain. They looked exactly the same. It was as though their bodies did not exist at all. Myriad Realm Tavern Master Dongbua Shui Ying was greatly startled. I have actually been discovered. Myriad Realm Tavern Master was slightly startled too. His teacher's lineage focused more on cultivating his fleshy body. Hence, he had many avatars, though his attainments in the void were slightly weaker and had yet to reach the pinnacle of voidification. If he were to reach the pinnacle of voidification like the destruction devils who had the shadowless talent, he could easily sneak into the side of Dongbua Shui Ying without being discovered. There were gains and losses. He chose this path of having many avatars, allowing him to not fear the great apocalypse of the primal chaos void. He was not afraid, even when facing a terrifying existence like the Sacred Master. But his combat strength was slightly weaker. His junior disciple brother, Mount Chime, had chosen a path that was stronger in combat. But his junior disciple brother was merely at the primal chaos realm. At the moment when Dongbua Shui Ying discovered him, an enormous fiery red god bird, Cinnabar, appeared behind him. It flapped its wings, causing a fiery red aura to spread out. Layers of illusory realm spread out in all directions, and every avatar of Myriad Realm Tavern Master was being assaulted. Even though he has more than 1,000 avatars, it seems that all of them are very weak. You seem to be weaker than me. Dongbua Shui Ying mumbled inwardly. That's right. If every avatar had the strength of an ordinary cosmos god, then Myriad Realm Tavern Master would have been unparalleled. In reality, the Myriad Realm Tavern Master was never known for his fighting prowess. Even Jiezu and Wu Zhu were stronger than him. Although the illusion realm that he cast was powerful, the Myriad Realm Tavern Master could still easily resist it. Of course, he had to divert some of his heart power to resist it. Kill. Over 1,000 old men invaded from different directions, and suddenly, every one of them distorted and became blurry. A gigantic head of an old man that blotted out the sun appeared. It covered an area of 10 million li, and it also enveloped Dongbua Shui Ying's illusory realm domain. The moment he opened his mouth, boundless darkness descended, wanting to devour Dongbua Shui Ying. Hua hua hua, huge black flower buds appeared one after another. Because he had absorbed the energy of quite a few destruction devils after their deaths, his soul had become slightly stronger. At the same time, when he maintained the 10th transformation of Cinnabar, he could also unleash 8 9-petaled flowers. All the 9-petaled flowers were wrapped around one another, with a white-robed Dongbua Shui Ying located at the center. Dongbua Shui Ying had also activated the 2 secret treasures on his body. Under the activation of the 12 primal beads bracelet, layers of light covered his body. At the same time, the surface of Dongbua Shui Ying's white robe was also emitting a golden light. The surface of his body was also covered in a blue light. The enormous head of the Myriad Realm Tavern Master swallowed everything in the region of 500,000 kilometers. Dongbua Shui Ying's surroundings had also fallen into darkness, though he did not panic at all. he was still protected by the two secret treasures. Furthermore, his law domain was completely unleashed. The illusory realm enveloped him, and there were layers of protection from the 8 flower buds. Chi. Many strands of white light appeared in the darkness. However, the 9-petaled flowers protecting Dongbua Shui Ying were all hidden within the illusory realm. Those strands of white light had forcibly penetrated through the layers of world obstructions, causing 30% of its power to be depleted before striking on the 9-petaled flower's petals. He was indeed the leader of the largest assassin organization in the primal chaos void, the Myriad Realm Tavern. Even though the 9-petaled flower's petals were relatively tough, they were still cut apart by Mount Chaime's attack, much less the killing technique of the Myriad Realm Tavern Master. Many strands of white light penetrated through the obstruction of the illusory realm and rapidly penetrated through the 9-petaled flowers, causing the 9-petaled flowers to start collapsing. But at the same time, new 9-petaled flowers were also appearing around Dongbua Shui. But the speed at which the white light penetrated was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it had penetrated through 11 layers of 9-petaled flowers, of which 3 were formed later. Wang. Dongbua Shui remained standing there calmly. The 12-layered dimmed light barrier was incomparably tough. Under the assault of those white light, merely the 2 outermost light barriers were penetrated before the white light dissipated. Just these techniques? Dongbua Shui looked at the endless darkness around him, saying this move was slow, but in reality, this exchange between cosmos gods had happened in an instant. Nevertheless, before the killing technique could finish him off, Dongbua Shui had sufficient time to execute an ultra-long distance teleportation. Hence, Dongbua Shui became more relaxed. The survival secret treasure given to me by Wu Zhu and the others is indeed extraordinary. Dongbua Shui thought. Wu Zhu and the others had mentioned it before. Only Sacred Master could break through the protection of the 12 Primal Beads bracelet. As for Myriad Realm Tavern Master, Dongbua Shui felt that it was possible for him to survive this wave of killing technique even without relying on the secret treasures. Naturally, being confident was one thing. He would not be so foolish as to not use the 2 secret treasures he had. Wah! In the endless darkness, an old man appeared. He was Myriad Realm Tavern Master. This is the new secret treasure that Wu Zhu refined for you. Myriad Realm Tavern Master looked at the 12-layered dimmed light barrier on the surface of Dongbua Shui Ying's body. After penetrating through the illusory world and the 9-petaled flower, only 60% of his killing technique remained. Feeling the power of the light barrier, Myriad Realm Tavern Master understood that he would need some time to break through it. Because this killing technique required time to accumulate power, he had been hiding and accumulating power for this wave of assassination. If the assassination failed, Dongbua Shui could easily escape with his destructive realm teleportation technique. Hence, Myriad Realm Tavern Master understood that he had failed. Right? Dongbua Shui nodded. Wu Zhu and the others seemed to regard you highly. Myriad Realm Tavern Master said, "Let me ask you, where did you learn your destructive realm teleportation technique?" Ancient cultivation aptitude. Dongbua Shui said. Impossible. Myriad Realm Tavern Master shook his head. The Supreme Law would never bestow such an aptitude. Oh, is that so? Could it be that you guys have grasped the Supreme Law and are so confident? Dongbua Shui retorted. Myriad Realm Tavern Master was stunned. Grasp the Supreme Law? Forget about him. Even his master, the founder of this lineage, had not reached this stage. It was extremely difficult to grasp the Supreme Law. This Dongbua Shui is right. Without grasping the Supreme Law, maybe Master's deduction might not be correct. Could it be that ancient cultivation aptitude really allows one to possess the destructive realm teleportation technique? Myriad Realm Tavern Master thought, but after cultivating to Master's level, the possibility of his deduction being wrong is extremely low. Previously, he thought that Dongbua Shui had secretly learned their lineage's basic method to deduce the teleportation technique or learn it from Emperor Jian. But now, he felt that there was a small possibility. It was truly an ancient cultivation aptitude. The supreme law was ultimately hard to comprehend. I've experienced myriad realm tavern master's assassination technique. Donghua Shuang smiled. The void beside him distorted, and he took a step forward before vanishing. In the wilderness, Mount Chime was also looking at the huge commotion far away. Following that, it suddenly calmed down, and an old man appeared beside him. Senior brother. Mount Chime looked at the old man. I failed. The old man shook his head. Chapter 998. Why did you fail? Senior disciple brother. You couldn't even kill Donghua Shuang? Mount Chime anxiously asked. Even though his senior disciple brother of this lineage was biased towards the fleshy body and had many avatars, his survivability was heaven-defying. But in terms of assassination techniques, he should be at the peak of the first-level Cosmos God. How could he not deal with a primal chaos realm expert? Myriad Realm Tavern Master shook his head. Scarlet eyebrows. This Donghua Shuang has two great secret treasures on him. In addition to his profound illusory realm, it is impossible for Wu Zhu and Jie Zhu to assassinate him. I'm different from you. You specialize more in voidification and close combat. If you could become a Cosmos God, I believe you could stealthily assassinate him. Mount Chime felt frustrated and helpless when he heard that. In his opinion, his senior disciple brother was trash. That time, he knew he should choose the strongest survival technique. His senior disciple brother was comparable to his teacher, and it was practically impossible for him to kill the other party. Actually, this lineage of theirs was formidable in survivability. Mount Chime was considered weak in terms of survivability, but if he became a Cosmos God, he could reach the pinnacle of voidification. Furthermore, he had the avatar technique, allowing him to create a total of 9 avatars. By then, he could assassinate and threaten those second-level Cosmos gods. His techniques were considered perfect, but 9 great avatars and the pinnacle of voidification would still fall before the great apocalypse of the primal chaos void. But with the help of his teacher, he could escape from that final calamity. What a fool. He only knows how to survive, yet he is so weak. As for the great apocalypse of the primal chaos void, can I just ask my teacher for help? Mount Chime thought. In Myriad Realm, Tavern Master determined that he had to rely on himself. Even though Myriad Realm Tavern Master was cold and selfish, he did not have great ambitions. You are afraid of death, yet you have spoiled my plans. Mount Chime was slightly anxious. If Donghua Shuang did not die, why would Cosmos gods ask him to search for golden-armored graded lairs? Senior disciple brother. I want to contact teacher. Mount Chime said. Contact teacher? Myriad Realm Tavern Master was startled. Yes. Mount Chime nodded. We can't let this Donghua Shuang live. If he lives, he will learn more and more destructive realm teleportation techniques. Who knows, he might even be able to create a clone technique one day. Then contact him, Myriad Realm Tavern Master said. He also understood his junior brother's true thoughts. It was most likely because of those Origin World rocks. He knew that his junior brother was proud and arrogant. He was different from him. His junior brother, Mount Chime, was very ambitious. Mount Chime nodded. Both of them had a way to contact their master, but in front of his master, Mount Chime was still in awe. This was because he was different from his senior brother. His senior brother did not rely on his master and was free and unfettered. He needed his master's help in many aspects, so he naturally had to coax his master. Formless fluctuations permeated the surroundings, and the supreme laws retreated. A transparent figure appeared. It was a bird-headed, transparent figure. His voice reverberated around. Myriad Realm, red eyebrows, you two are looking for me? Master. The Myriad World Tavern Master bowed respectfully. The favor of imparting the Tao to him and the person who led the way was naturally respectful to his master. Teacher, there is someone called Donghua Shuang in this primal chaos void. He is actually able to execute the destructive realm teleportation technique. He has been casting illusory realms all over the place. I suspect that he has relied on the illusory realms to search for the fundamental cultivation techniques for my disciples and senior disciple Brother Myriad Realm's disciples. After that, Scarlet-browed Mountain Master immediately began explaining. The transparent figure was very calm when he heard that. Kill? If you want to kill, then kill. There is no need to ask me. Senior Brother's assassination failed, so there is nothing we can do for now. Mount Chime said, I am being suppressed in this primal chaos void, so I can't help you. If there is nothing else, then I shall leave. The transparent figure said coldly. Mount Chime hesitated and didn't dare to persuade him. He was clear of the temper of his teacher. Since his teacher did not agree, then persuading him would only make his teacher unhappy. Since he could coax his teacher into such a happy mood, he naturally understood the temper of his teacher. Senior Brother and I will think of another way. Farewell, Master. Mount Chime immediately bowed respectfully. In the end, he even mentioned his senior brother, expressing that this matter was the thoughts of the two of them. Farewell, Master. Myriad Realm Tavern Master said. He was relatively indifferent. He was casually being used by his junior disciple brother. Since their strength was different, their mentality was different too. Myriad Realm Tavern Master could simply watch as the primal chaos void was destroyed. Hence, he just laughed off the little thoughts of his junior disciple brother. Cultivate properly and break through to the Cosmos God realm as soon as possible. The transparent figure ordered before disappearing. Only Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chime were left in this piece of wilderness. Junior disciple brother, Master is being suppressed in this primal chaos void, and I can't do anything about it. I can't kill Dongbua Shuang either. Myriad Realm Tavern Master finished speaking before dissipating. Mount Chime stood alone in the wilderness with a gloomy expression. Can't do anything about it? Being suppressed by the primal chaos void? Old fellow, you are too stingy. I don't believe I can't kill that Dongbua Shuang just by giving him a formidable void-related secret treasure. Mount Chime felt frustrated inwardly. He was clear how deep the foundation of his teacher was. Even if he was suppressed by the primal chaos void, he would still have ways to kill Dongbua Shuang. It was just a matter of whether the other party was willing to pay the price or not. Clearly, his teacher was too lazy to waste his effort on a primal chaos brat. Furthermore, his teacher was too arrogant. He did not care if Dongbua Shuang learned a bit from Emperor Juyun or deduced some basic techniques, because this lineage of inheritance of his was vast and profound. He did not believe that Dongbua Shuang could deduce much without receiving the inheritance. After all, that time, Emperor Jiyun could not deduce the avatar technique even before his death. One had to know that the destructive realm teleportation technique and avatar technique were merely the foundation of this lineage of his. Even Mount Chime knew the avatar technique. After Dongbua Shuang was assassinated, he was directly teleported back to the Great Void Heaven Temple. Within the Great Void Heaven Temple, Void Primogenitor and Wu Zhu had their incarnations staying at Dongbua Shuang's place. They were currently researching the scaled armor left behind by General Mogu. Using the words of Void Primogenitor, it is too profound. The voidification on this scaled armor is too simple. If I could research it thoroughly, I might be able to improve further in the void. He was clearly obsessed with it. As for Wu Zhu, he loved researching all mysterious items. Pinnacle of voidification, Wu Zhu naturally desired it. He hoped to carve this scaled armor inscription into his body, allowing him to have the technique to pinnacle of voidification. By then, he would be more confident when facing the Sacred Master. Dongbua Shuang, how is your comprehension? Wu Zhu's incarnation saw Dongbua Shuang walking over and shouted passionately. I have some gains. Dongbua Shuang walked over. Wu Zhu was very willing to interact with Dongbua Shuang. This assassination had caused Dongbua Shuang to reflect on many things. He had even ordered his children and wife not to leave the Great Void Heaven Temple without his permission. Time passed. The primal chaos voids Heaven Green World. This was Mount Chime's territory. A cold and desolate palace was constructed at the peak of a mountain. There were only a dozen female servants in this palace, which was considered very few. Mount Chime sat alone on his throne. His gaze pierced through the palace door, looking at the vast primal chaos void far away. Dongbua Shuang. Mount Chime had been thinking of a way. He had to get rid of him. If he did not get rid of him, the huge business he had planned, the huge amount of Origin World stones would be gone. He has 2 life-saving treasures on him. Senior disciple brother said that even Ancestor Jiezu and Ancestor Mother could hardly kill him, and only Sacred Master can kill him. Mount Chime did not dare believe it. That group of cosmos gods actually treat Dongbua Shuang so highly and treat him so well. But he did not know. The destruction devils that sneaked and suspected that there was a king within and asked Dongbua Shuang to take the risk to investigate. Naturally, they had to give Dongbua Shuang some life-saving treasures. At that time, when Dongbua Shuang discovered a golden-armored graded lair, it made Wu Zu and Jiezu even more delighted. Naturally, they brought out the most suitable life-saving treasures for primal chaos existences. What should I do? Mount Chime pondered. He always had a method in his heart, though he was hesitating because it would mean offending an extremely terrifying existence. There is no other way. I can only use Sacred Master to kill Dongbua Shuang. Mount Chime's eyes were filled with coldness. Chapter 999. It was too easy to make use of Sacred Master because cosmos gods coveted their lineage of inheritance. And the strongest expert in the primal chaos void, Sacred Master, was the greediest of them all. He had already used all methods. That time, he had either threatened or enticed them. He had even personally acted against Mount Chime and killed Mount Chime. It's a pity that the core inheritance of their lineage had to be cultivated in the avatar technique. Thus, Sacred Master could not obtain the true core inheritance of this lineage despite thinking of all sorts of methods. Even someone as powerful as Sacred Master was not good in many aspects. He could not unravel the techniques left behind by Emperor Jin. Sacred Master is crazy in wanting to obtain the inheritance of our lineage. If he knew that Dongbua Shuang has deduced part of our lineage, Mount Chime sneered inwardly. He would most likely act immediately. It's just that he was killed by Sacred Master before that he was not too willing to offend Sacred Master. But this time, he could not care about it anymore. He decided to borrow this blade of Sacred Master. Within the dark palace hall, the calm water in the pool gradually condensed and transformed into a figure of water. There was a silver light circulating around its body. It was Master Jiaming, who had an extremely high position in the ancient saint cult. Master Jiaming's strength was at the 9th level, and he was skilled in tracking. Moreover, he could predict the future. His innate talent in predicting the future caused the Saint Master to attach great importance to him, and he was entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Master Jiaming. Within the palace hall, there was a primal chaos expert shrouded in black robes, bowing respectfully. There's news from the Heaven Green world. Oh, what news? The water incarnation of Master Jiaming asked. I've found news regarding part of the core inheritance of their lineage. This primal chaos expert said. Master Jiaming was startled too. There were not many things that Sacred Master desired. Other than grasping the supreme law, which was his most important goal, the inheritance of Myriad Realm, Tavern Master Mount Chime, and the others, was ranked in the top 3 in importance. Sacred Master had personally acted many times, disguising his identity and concealing his aura. One could see how much he valued it. It's a pity that the core inheritance of that lineage was too secretive, and Sacred Master could not obtain it. The Saint Master could only instruct his subordinates. Hence, the ancient sacred religion had long since thought of ways to find those who did not have a soul imprint, but truly believed in the Saint Master from the bottom of their hearts. Among them, there were some who became disciples of the Myriad World Tavern Master and Mount Chime. Even his servants and maids were infiltrated by the ancient saint cult. Our spies have discovered an extremely important piece of news. Part of the core inheritance of their lineage should have been grasped by Dongbua Shui Ying of the Great Void Heaven Temple. The black-robed, chaotic realm expert said respectfully. How did you find out? Tell me in detail. Yes, at that time, Master Jia Ming silently listened. His main body began to investigate what had happened in the past based on this piece of information. He could predict the future, so he could naturally see part of the past. The past had already happened, so it was relatively easy to pry into it. This was also the reason why Master Jia Ming was in charge of this matter. While listening and checking, Lord Jia Ming also made a judgment in his heart. Swoosh! Moments later, Master Jia Ming's main body personally went to the Sacred Master, within the most dazzling palace in the ancient sacred world. On the crystalline black stone bed, Sacred Master sat cross-legged by himself. He wore a black muslin robe, and his expression was calm and gentle. Just by sitting there, it felt as though he would exist eternally, even if the primal chaos void was destroyed. Nothing could threaten him, not even the supreme law that stood high above. This was because his very existence already possessed a portion of the supreme laws. Who? A figure walked in from outside. That was a white-robed male. He walked in barefooted, and the servants in the palace hall did not obstruct him. Sacred Master. The eyes of the white-robed male were filled with wisdom, as though he could see through everything. He bowed respectfully. Sacred Master opened his eyes and looked down at the white-robed male. Even though he could see part of the future, the white-robed, barefooted male, Master Jia Ming, was still respectful when facing Sacred Master. Because the more he could see the future, the more he could feel how powerful Sacred Master was. In all the timelines he could see, Sacred Master was always high above. Furthermore, if he tried to see Sacred Master in the future timelines, he would suffer from a backlash, and he could no longer see the future. He understood that Sacred Master's strength had already faintly surpassed the control of the Supreme Law. Even with his talent, it was hard for him to see through Sacred Master's future. Even if it was the future that he predicted, an existence like Sacred Master could still change the future. I've received a piece of news. The white-robed, barefooted male, Master Jia Ming, said with a gentle voice, "It's a piece of news sent back by a disciple that we sent to infiltrate Mount Chai-mei. They said that Mount Chai-mei was infuriated because of Dongbua Shui Ying and was in an extremely bad mood. They even mentioned the words secretly learning. After investigating, I discovered that not long ago, Mount Chai-mei had once thought of ways to deal with Dongbua Shui Ying. In fact, I even suspect that the Myriad World Tavern Master had already acted. However, I was unable to see the scene of him acting. According to many investigations, we can deduce that it should be true that Dongbua Shui Ying grasped part of their core inheritance. Myriad World Tavern Master and Mount Chai-mei have both acted in order to kill Dongbua Shui Ying. Master Jia Ming said, and Mount Chai-mei has unintentionally leaked some information. I suspect that he is doing it on purpose so that he can use us to kill that Dongbua Shui Ying. I've investigated the past. According to the conversation between him and Dongbua Shui Ying, I know that Dongbua Shui Ying has grasped the destructive realm teleportation technique. Mount Chai-mei has always been negotiating with Wu Zhu, Jie Zhu, and the other cosmos gods. If Dongbua Shui Ying grasped the destructive realm teleportation technique, then Wu Zhu, Jie Zhu, and the others would no longer spend a huge sum of Origin World rocks to hire him. This might be the reason why he is determined to kill Dongbua Shui Ying. Master Jia Ming calmly stated his deduction. Sacred Master was listening silently from above. Deliberately leaking it? It wasn't important to Sacred Master whether it was intentional or not. What was important was whether Dongbua Shui Ying had truly obtained part of the core inheritance. Dongbua Shui Ying? Sacred Master softly muttered. This was the first time he had truly paid attention to Dongbua Shui Ying. Even though he understood many information regarding cultivators, he had thrown it to the back of his mind. Amongst the external superpowers, other than Black Emperor and Mount Chai-mei, he did not place any other primal chaos experts in his eyes. And now, he was paying attention to Dongbua Shui Ying. Wong. The eyes of Sacred Master calmly watched. His eyes were faintly filled with many illusions. In terms of tracing, even though Master Jiaming was formidable, he could not compare to Sacred Master. Even when Myriad Realm Tavern Master assassinated Dongbua Shuang, Sacred Master could easily spy on it. Only the scene of Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chai Mei conversing with their teacher was completely disrupted, and Sacred Master could not spy on it. That old fellow has sneaked in once too? The edge of Sacred Master's lips curled upwards. Dongbua Shuang deduced part of their core inheritance, or did he obtain it from Emperor Julian? Sacred Master was quick to judge, no matter which outcome it was. He was very satisfied, because Emperor Jiyun had an extremely important secret treasure that he desired greatly, the 3 Fire Prison Realms Cauldron. That foolish Emperor Jiyun did not understand how to use the 3 Fire Prison Realms Cauldron, even when his realm was not high enough. Dongbua Shuang, huh? It is time for me to go out and have a walk. Sacred Master stood up and walked down the black stone bed. All the servants and Master Jiaming felt their hearts tightening. They immediately bowed respectfully. Chapter 1000. An enormous illusory realm enveloped this small city. All sentient beings within the small city had fallen into it. All of them had their own experiences within the illusory realm. And in this small city, there was only a white-robed young man who was still awake. He walked alone on the streets, yet he could easily control the experiences of the millions of cultivators within the illusory realm. He had even given some opportunities to those he admired. Some of the evildoers had their souls extinguished in the illusory realm. Ever since I discovered that batch of destruction devils previously, I even killed one with the shadowless talent. After that, I no longer have any gains. The destruction devils are quite vigilant. Dongbua Shuang softly shook his head. He knew that he would not have any gains this time around, but he was already used to it. He was used to not reaping any rewards. He had long since regarded this as a part of his cultivation. Amen? This wine shop in this small city seems to have a good reputation. There are many cultivators who like it. Dongbua Shuang immediately discovered a place with delicacies within the illusory realm. Wah! With a thought, the illusory realm dissipated. The entire small city regained its normalcy. All sentient beings regained their consciousness. Other than a few who had some opportunities, the others did not know that they had fallen into the illusory realm previously. Amen. This small city actually has such delicacies. The ingredients are ordinary, yet the food is delicious. Dongbua Shuang placed many plates of meat in front of him. He was enjoying himself. He had visited too many desolate places. Some ancient cultivators had the talent to specialize in delicacies, and eating them was indeed a form of enjoyment. Even his soul felt incomparably comfortable. That wonderful feeling had even surpassed swallowing Origin World rocks. Sitting at a corner of this wine shop, eating and drinking the wine that he brought, Dongbua Shuang was in a good mood. Sacred Master, who was wearing a black muslin, walked barefoot. He naturally teleported closer to Dongbua Shuang through an ultra-long distance before stealthily arriving at this small city. Sacred Master walked in from the entrance of the city. Everywhere he passed by, even though there were many people, they would naturally avoid Sacred Master. None of them were aware of the existence of Sacred Master. The Holy Lord stood at one end of the small city and gazed at the tavern several tens of thousands of miles away. Although there were many customers in the tavern, and it was very lively, there was only one person that caught the Holy Lord's attention, and that was the white-robed young man who was eating heartily. The Holy Lord took another step forward and silently traversed hundreds of thousands of miles, arriving not far away from the tavern. Dongbua Shuang was initially very relaxed and carefree, but suddenly his expression changed drastically. Danger! The law domain immediately activated upon sensing an extremely terrifying existence. Shuang's life instinctively let out a frightening warning. Danger. Extreme danger. That sense of danger and fear instantly drowned Dongbua Shuang. The threat brought by the life rating caused Dongbua Shuang to tremble uncontrollably. In front of him, he saw a barefooted man in a black robe walking on the crowded street. His eyes were gentle and kind as he looked at Dongbua Shuang. At this moment, the world seemed to have disappeared. The surrounding city had disappeared too. All living beings had disappeared, leaving behind only him and the distant Holy Lord. The circulating supreme laws had already retreated a long time ago. The sacred Lord's law domain instantly destroyed his illusion, causing him to be completely trapped within the sacred Lord's domain. Given the strength of his soul, he was barely able to activate 2 life-saving secret treasures. The 12 primal beads bracelet was activated. 12 layers of light covered the surface of his body. The 3-colored heavy cloud robe on his body also released a golden light. The surface was even wrapped in a blue light. Holy Lord! How could it be the Holy Lord? Dongbua Shuang felt startled in his heart. What identity did the Holy Lord have? Why would he act against a primal chaos expert? Furthermore, the 3 great sacred worlds and the 2 great religions had a tacit understanding. During this period of recuperation, unless a primal chaos expert offended a cosmos god. Otherwise, cosmos gods would not act against a primal chaos expert. Otherwise, wouldn't it be terrible if the strong bullied the weak? It would likely incite a large-scale war. A large-scale war would only result in both sides suffering. The Holy Lord would not easily act either. Why would he act against me? Dongbua Shuang was still thinking when an unseen energy penetrated through the 12 layers of light. As for the 3-colored heavy cloud, it was even more useless. Even if Dongbua Shuang's body was powerful in voidification, this unseen energy had still enveloped the body of Dongbua Shuang. It was absolutely cold. It felt as if his body and soul had been frozen. Dongbua Shuang's soul had been sealed. It was only for an instant. Dongbua Shuang could only activate 2 secret treasures. He did not even have the time to stand up. One could see how fast and ferocious the other party was. The 12 primal beads bracelet might be formidable, and even Jiezu and Wuzu needed a moment or two to break through it. But every move of the Holy Lord was suppressing Jiezu and Wuzu. At this moment, he wanted to capture Dongbua Shuang alive, and naturally, he would not allow any accidents to happen. The first thing he did was to use thunderous methods, instantly sealing Dongbua Shuang's soul. So weak. Dongbua Shuang's heart turned cold. This was only because he had secret treasures. If he didn't have them, the terrifying law domain of the Holy Lord would be able to trample on him easily. Holy Lord walked over. Although he seemed to be walking slowly, he appeared beside Dongbua Shuang in a single step and casually grabbed hold of Dongbua Shuang's body. Boom! The surrounding space started to distort, and one could faintly see the gigantic palace on the other side. Holy Lord grabbed hold of Dongbua Shuang's body, and with a single step, he arrived at the ancient saint world on the other side. Everything happened too quickly. Dongbua Shuang was first in a daze before his heart turned cold. He knew that it was over for him. If he landed in the hands of Holy Lord, who would be able to save him? Furthermore, this was the territory of Holy Lord, the ancient sacred world. The ancient sacred world was protected by the ancient sacred incarnation and was impregnable. It was futile even if all other cosmos gods worked together to attack. Even if they started a war, Wuzu, Jiezu, and the others would not choose to fight in the ancient sacred world. Fighting with Holy Lord, there was the most foolish thing to do. Why did he act against me? I am just a primal chaos realm expert. What do I have that is worth him acting? Unless he knows that I am the disciple of Gu Qi? No, if he knew, he would have just casually killed me. After all, my teacher Gu Qi was directly killed by him, and there is no need for him to capture me alive. Dongbua Shuang was pondering over it. He must have a reason to capture me alive. Is he standing on the side of the destruction devils? It shouldn't be. He was an absolute overlord during the era of the primitive ancient sacred world. Because of Emperor Jiyun, he had always wanted to kill Emperor Jiyun in the past. And he knows that I have reaped some benefits from Emperor Jiyun. Or is it Myriad Realm, Tavern Master, and Mount Chime? Previously, they failed to assassinate me, and now they are thinking of ways to get Holy Master to act? Dongbo Shui Ying had many guesses at this moment, but they were ultimately just guesses. I'm afraid I'm doomed this time. I can't escape anymore. Dongbo Shui Ying felt helpless too. The attack was too fast, and he could not react in time. Currently, I am sealed. Can that Realm Heart Order help me? Dongbo Shui Ying's soul was currently occupied by the energy of the Realm Heart Order. That time when the Realm Heart Order fused into his soul, he could not expel it at all. At this moment, Dongbo Shui Ying attempted to fuse a strand of his true soul into it. Chapter 1001. The scarlet energy formed by the Realm Heart Order had always been entrenched deep within the soul of Dongbo Shui Ying. He could not expel it. At this moment, Dongbo Shui Ying fused a strand of true spirit into this scarlet energy easily. Furthermore, there was a feeling of eagerness. Dongbo Shui Ying could even vaguely feel the world beyond the primal chaos void. Just like how he peered through the black fog spherical hole to peer into a higher dimension world. But that was merely the tip of the iceberg. Currently, when a strand of true spirit fused into the Realm Heart Order energy, he could feel the vastness beyond the primal chaos void. There was even a faint, terrifying fluctuation not any weaker than that of the primal chaos void. I can activate it with a thought? Dongbo Shui Ying understood the moment he fused with it. The Realm Heart Order was refined by mysterious and ancient existence, Yuan. It helped cultivators reincarnate into another huge world not any weaker than the primal chaos void, the Realm Heart Great Land. To protect his true spirit and travel from the primal chaos void to the Realm Heart Great Land, he had to reincarnate. What he consumed was the energy of the Realm Heart Order. As for Dongbo Shui Ying, his energy was useless. It was impossible for him to do so at his level. Under normal circumstances, cultivators had reached a bottleneck for too long and were close to despair. That was why they would abandon their fleshy body and soul, choosing to reincarnate with a strand of true spirit. Wanting to return? One had to become a cosmos god before he could activate the energy of the Realm Heart Order. If he did not break through, he would die in the Realm Heart Great Land. Who would have thought that I, Dongbo Shui Ying, would be forced to this stage? Dongbo Shui Ying felt bitter in his heart. Pong! Dongbo Shui Ying's body was thrown into the palace hall. He knocked against a pillar by the side. His body leaned against the pillar before slowly standing up. His strength was sealed. Even his soul was sealed, and he could only use the most fundamental fleshy body strength. This fleshy body strength could not even kill him under normal circumstances. After all, his level of life was too high, and his fleshy body strength could not injure his soul. But by relying on the Realm Heart Order, Dongbo Shui Ying could reincarnate into another world. It was also considered committing suicide on another level. The hall was silent, and the servants didn't dare to make sound. The Saint Master leisurely walked up to the black stone bed and sat down cross-legged. He looked down at Dongbo Shui Ying and said, Dongbo Shui Ying, I can promise you that as long as you are obedient, you will live. This is my promise, and I won't break it for a little guy like you. Saint Master, you're really thinking too highly of me to deal with me personally, Dongbo Shui Ying said calmly. In the 5 sacred worlds of the primal chaos void, there aren't many who are qualified to be my opponent. The one with the greatest potential is the Sword Master from your great Void Heaven Temple. Even I suffered a small loss. Sacred Master sat there. I've heard that your talent isn't bad, and your cultivation is fast. Who knows, you might become a cosmos god one day. It's not worth it to die like this. What request does Sacred Master have? Please tell me directly. Dongbo Shui Ying said, I've heard that you have grasped part of the core inheritance from the lineage of Myriad Realm, Tavern Master, and Mount Chime. Sacred Master said, I'm very interested. Part of the core inheritance? It's really them. Dongbo Shui Ying felt relatively frustrated in his heart. That was too ruthless. He had never learned any cultivation techniques from their lineage. They merely discovered that his ultra-long distance teleportation technique was similar to theirs, and they thought that he had stolen it. It was fine if they failed to assassinate him, but they even knew about it, and Sacred Master acted personally. Damn! Even though he felt anger and disgust towards Myriad Realm Tavern Master's lineage, he had no other choice. Myriad Realm Tavern Master had countless avatars. Even Scarlet-Browed Mountain Master had an avatar that was hidden and could not be found. Nobody could kill them at all. Facing an enemy that he could not kill, Dongbua Shui Ying felt frustrated and helpless at the same time. Who would have thought that this ultra-long distance teleportation technique of Emperor Jiyun would bring about such a calamity? Dongbua Shui Ying felt helpless inwardly. He was quite cautious, but he could not possibly not use it after learning this teleportation technique, right? Shui Ying endured until he reached the primal chaos realm before publicizing it, using the name of an ancient cultivation talent. Previously, nobody doubted him. Many cosmos gods had seen him using it before. There were too many cultivators who saw him using it in the Void Castle. Instead, it was Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chime who determined that it was impossible for him to have an ancient cultivation talent, and that it was a teleportation technique of their lineage. What identity does Sacred Master have? He is actually helping Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chime. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. I'm not helping them. Instead, I need this inheritance. Sacred Master looked down at Dongbua Shui Ying. Tell me everything you know. I promise I'll let you leave. He was so easy to talk to. Was it because he relied on the illusory realm to force Dongbua Shui Ying to take the initiative to speak? It was useless. Dongbua Shui Ying's illusory realm was stronger than Sacred Master's, and was the strongest among cultivators. Directly searching through the memories of the soul, that was extremely overbearing. If the gap in strength was huge, it was possible. But Dongbua Shui Ying specialized in the illusory realm, and Cinnabar's inheritance targeted the soul. He had reached the unprecedented 10th transformation, and the strength of his soul far surpassed other 9th-level primal chaos realm experts. The difficulty of searching through the interior of his soul was comparable to that of a cosmos god. Searching the soul? In the end, it would only cause Dongbua Shui Ying's soul to dissipate. Furthermore, he would only be able to find bits and pieces of it, and not the complete memories. Thus, that was why Sacred Master took the initiative to persuade Shui Ying and promised to let him go. Unless he had no other choice, he would choose to search the soul. Dongbua Shui Ying was conversing with Sacred Master. He was deliberately delaying for time, because he had already decided. It was impossible for him to pass the inheritance of Emperor Jiyun to Sacred Master. Sacred Master was already so powerful, so why would he allow Sacred Master to increase his techniques? Even without the Realm Hard Order, Sacred Master would never agree to it. Now, he was delaying for time and arranging everything. I don't have enough time. I have always wanted to find more golden-armored graded layers, but I don't have the time. Within the Mirage Palace of the Great Void Heaven Temple, Dongbua Shui Ying's incarnation was located in the courtyard. As long as he chose to reincarnate, his incarnation would dissipate. 3 golden-armored graded layers. Fortunately, I have left behind a spatial imprint on every single one of them. Dongbua Shui Ying thought. Previously, he had only sent 2 incarnations to search for golden-armored graded layers in the Lost World Corridor. It was impossible for him to stay there forever. Hence, he left behind a spatial imprint on an ordinary sealed space close to the golden-armored graded layers. Adding up the golden-armored graded layers that I told Sorcerer God and the others about, I, Dongbua Shui Ying, have found 4 golden-armored graded layers. It's a pity that I didn't have enough time. As long as I have enough time, with my scouting techniques, I will definitely be able to search through the entire Lost World Corridor. Dongbua Shui Ying thought. A trillion years or so, he had only found the tip of the iceberg in searching for the destruction devils in the primal chaos void. But even though the Lost World Corridor was huge, it was much smaller than the primal chaos void. He had already searched through 60 to 70% of the entire region. If he had another trillion years, he would most likely be able to search through every single region without leaving anything out. Snow Eagle, you didn't cultivate? Jing Xiu appeared outside the courtyard. She revealed a joyous look, because this incarnation of Dongbua Shui Ying would often cultivate by looking at the scaled armor left behind by General Mo Gu. Jing Xiu. When Dongbua Shui Ying saw his wife, his heart trembled. Jing Xiu, ask Qing Yao and Yuer to hurry back. Immediately. Dongbua Shui Ying said. So urgent. Jing Xiu felt puzzled. Yuer is still in closed-door cultivation. Chapter 1002. When Dongbua Shui Ying gave the order, his children, Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qing Yao, naturally did not dare to delay and rushed over immediately. The siblings were slightly puzzled. What was the matter with the urgent summons? When they saw Dongbua Shui Ying, they were even more puzzled. That was because Shui Ying had only exchanged a few words with the brother and sister pair. He also gave them a few instructions before letting them leave. I still have some matters to discuss with your mother. You can all leave first. Eastern European Snow Eagle smiled at his children. Yes, father. Although they were filled with doubts, Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qing Yao obediently replied and retreated. After all, Dongbua Shui Ying's prestige had long been engraved in their hearts. Shui Ying, you're acting really strange today. You is in closed-door cultivation, yet you summoned them here as soon as possible. Just summon them here, but you only said a few words before letting them leave? Jing Xiu was puzzled. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. I am pressed for time. Pressed for time? Jing Xiu was even more puzzled. Jing Xiu. Dongbua Shui Ying laughed. Ever since we first met in the Azure River County, we have experienced many setbacks and tribulations. Now that we have cultivated to such a realm and seen so many things, I have no regrets. Why are you saying this all of a sudden? Jing Xiu laughed. My soul will dissipate very soon. Dongbua Shui Ying transmitted a message to Jing Xiu. Jing Xiu was startled. How? How is this possible? She looked at her husband. After all, they had both experienced too much and cultivated for too long. Their temperaments were extraordinary. Although Jing Xiu was confused and her mind was in a mess, she still suppressed her panic and looked at her husband. Although her husband was smiling calmly, Jing Xiu could tell that he was not lying. My true body has already fallen into the hands of the Saint Master. Dongbua Shui Ying transmitted a message. I will dissipate my soul on my own. Otherwise, I will be begging for death. Saint Master? Jing Xiu shuddered. It was the most terrifying existence in the primal chaos void. Most of the fallen cosmos gods had died in the hands of the Sacred Master. With how powerful he was, he could easily kill primal chaos experts with a single gaze. Even though her husband was outstanding and had a relatively high status, and cosmos gods treated him as an equal. But in the hands of the Holy Master, why would he attack you? He's a Saint Master, Jing Xiu said anxiously. It involves some big trouble. Now is not the time to talk about this. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. With a flip of his hand, a storage bracelet appeared in his palm. Inside the bracelet were some of the items that he had just forged, such as the first painting of Emperor Jiyun's four-painting inheritance. This was because he had only mastered the first diagram. He could only completely record the first diagram. He could not record the other 3 diagrams. He also had an absolute art that he had created, Mirage. These absolute arts were all information, so he could record them quickly with a thought. Unfortunately, his original body had fallen into the hands of the Sacred Master, and his treasures had also fallen into the hands of the Sacred Master. Fortunately, he still had many Origin World rocks with the Forefather. Furthermore, he would also leave the spatial markings of the other 3 golden-armored, graded layers to the cosmos gods. He believed that they would treat his wife and children well. You can pass this storage bracelet to the Forefather and the others after my incarnation dissipates. Dongbua Shui Ying ordered. I've already added a seal on it. Few primal chaos existences could break it, so there's no need for you to look at it. If Jing Xiu saw it, it would be harming her instead. Jing Xiu received it. What exactly happened? Why would it be like this? Jing Xiu asked. This matter is related to Mount Chai-mei. Dongbo Shui Ying did not hide it from his wife. He quickly narrated the entire process. You must not tell Yu or Qin Yao about this. If you tell them, it would be harming them instead. Mount Chai-mei has an avatar technique, and it is impossible for him to be killed. Jing Xiu was filled with hatred as she listened. Mount Chai-mei, sacred master, it's a pity that they were existences she could not deal with. I know. I won't tell you, or Qin Yao. Jing Xiu nodded. Also, even though my soul has dissipated, I'm not truly dead. Dongbo Shui Ying continued transmitting. He knew of some techniques that could uncover some scenes that happened in the past. Hence, he did not plan on spreading the secret of his reincarnation. There was no need to tell even cosmos gods, since they could not help him at all. You aren't truly dead? Jing Xiu looked at her husband. Her eyes were filled with expectation. I've obtained a unique secret treasure. Dongbo Shui Ying transmitted. That unique secret treasure is called the Realm Heart Order. By relying on it, I can reincarnate into another huge world that is comparable to the primal chaos void. Rest assured, in the future, I'll definitely return from that huge world, but it might take a longer time. This news is a secret. In the future, if there's a need, you can tell Forefather about it, but there's no need to tell him now. Forefather Tian, you is someone Dongbo Shui Ying trusted. His teacher Gu Qi trusted him too. Before he died, it was Forefather Tian Yu who passed the items to him. Amen. Jing Xiu transmitted, rest assured. I won't easily tell you and Qin Yao. It might not be a good thing for them. Also, you aren't lying to me, right? Huh. You and I have long seen through life and death. Why is there a need to lie? Dongbo Shui Ying transmitted back. Jing Xiu nodded. Snow Eagle, what I hate the most is that I can't take revenge for you. Wait for me to return. Dongbo Shui Ying transmitted with a smile. Ancient sacred world. Sacred Master sat cross-legged on that crystalline black stone bed within the palace hall. He looked down at Dongbo Shui Ying with slight shock. You deduced it yourself? Yes. Dongbo Shui Ying sat there drinking wine. He nodded. Sacred Master should know that I specialize in the illusory realm. I have always been curious about the lineage of Myriad Realm, Tavern Master, and Mount Chai-mei. Mount Chai-mei is merely at the primal chaos realm, yet he has an avatar. Furthermore, it is impossible to locate his avatar. According to rumors, even you, Sacred Master, are unable to kill him. Sacred Master nodded. That is why I targeted their disciples. I used the illusory realm to stealthily obtain the fundamental cultivation technique from their disciples. Dongbo Shui Ying said, I went in a closed-door cultivation and deduced it. Who would have thought that I comprehended their so-called destructive realm teleportation technique? This destructive realm teleportation technique seems mystical, but it doesn't have a high requirement on one's realm. Sacred Master sighed inwardly. He knew that it didn't have a high requirement on one's realm. Otherwise, how could the primal chaos realm Mount Chai-mei execute it? He could even use an avatar. The avatar technique shouldn't have a high requirement on one's realm either. But the path of cultivation had to be opened. Without absolute talent, it was hard for one to open such an unfathomable path. Sacred Master had to admit when he heard this. If Dongbo Shui Ying had deduced the destructive realm teleportation technique by himself, his comprehension ability was truly heaven-defying. But thinking about Dongbo Shui Ying's previous cultivation speed, Sacred Master felt that he was indeed an absolute genius. If Sacred Master was allowed to grow, he might become another Sword Master in the future. I won't hide it from Sacred Master. I have merely deduced the destructive realm teleportation technique. I have some attainments in voidification. Even though I have some bits and pieces of the avatar technique, I will still require a long time to deduce it. Dongbo Shui Ying said. He could brag as much as he wanted to, because he only needed to delay for time so that he could arrange everything. It is about time. Dongbo Shui Ying thought. It was quite easy for him to delay for time. Chapter 1003. Dongbua Shui Ying was afraid that the other party would search his soul. If that was the case, he might not even have the time to arrange everything properly. Regardless of whether it was leaving behind Emperor Jiyun's first diagram or the spatial imprint of the golden armored lair, all of these required time. Fortunately, the sacred lord was very patient. "How is my wine?" The sacred master sat cross-legged on the black stone bed and smiled. "Good wine. I've tasted countless good wines up till now. Saint Master's wine is definitely qualified to be ranked number 1. Dongbua Shuiying said. He wasn't lying. The Saint Master smiled. "You can only drink this wine here in my place. It only existed in the earliest period of the primitive ancient sacred world. Now all of it has fallen into my hands. Now, every cup you drink is 1 cup less. All right, the wine has been drunk. It's time to speak." He had already obtained myriad world tavern master Mount Chimei's lineage's foundational cultivation technique. However, he had been unable to deduce the destructive realm teleportation technique, doppelgangers, voidification, and many other techniques. He even knew that lineage had the great destructive realm teleportation technique. He coveted these techniques. He felt that this junior Dongbua Shuiying was so talented that he was able to deduce the destructive realm teleportation technique. Once he learned it, with his current cultivation level, he might be able to deduce the technique of cloning with the help of his train of thought. Sacred Master is indeed sincere, Dongbua Shuiying said. However, Sacred Master must remember your promise. Don't worry, your life isn't enough for me to go back on my word. Not only will I let you go, but I will also give you an artifact that is much better than the one you have. Sacred Master chuckled. Perhaps these secret treasures might be important to other cosmos gods, but they aren't worth mentioning to me. Of course I believe you, Dongbua Shuiying said. At the same time, within his soul, the scarlet energy residing in his soul was formed from the realm heart order. It was mysterious and unfathomable, and he couldn't get rid of it. Just a little trick left behind by that mysterious being was enough to render Dongbua Shuiying helpless. This showed how unfathomable the power of that mysterious being called Yuan was. Activated, Dongbua Shuiying had a complicated feeling in his heart. He had only cultivated for a mere trillion years, yet he had already mastered 2 9th-level techniques. If he had a choice, he would never have chosen the path of reincarnation. This road, his future was unpredictable. Even though he said in front of his wife that he would definitely return, was there a conspiracy behind the Realm Heart Order? Would there be any problems during the process of teleporting from the Chaos Void to another huge world? What about the so-called Realm Heart Great Land? He did not know that if the Realm Heart Order was a scheme, he would be sending it to the other party. But now he had no choice. Compared to falling into the hands of the Holy Master, this was the best path. Jingxiu, I will definitely come back. Qingyao, I wonder what you'll look like when I return. Mount Chimei, Myriad World Tavern Master, were you the ones who plotted from behind? Holy Leader, I haven't avenged my master yet. Dongbua Shuiying muttered to himself. Actually, he had another way to survive, which was to pass the destructive world teleportation technique to Sacred Master. He also believed that with the Holy Master status, he might really let him go and even give him great treasures. Unfortunately, he could not choose this path. Buzz, a single thought. Even though the scarlet energy could not be expelled, it could be activated with a single thought. It recognized Dongbua Shuiying and tunneled into Dongbua Shuiying's soul just for this moment of activation. Hong, the scarlet energy wrapped around a strand of pure, true spirit. Suddenly, a red light erupted. The soul of Dongbua Shuiying, who had taken on a human form, dissipated like sand into nothingness, and the original scarlet energy similarly disappeared. Sacred Master sat on the black stone bed with great anticipation. Previously, he was still worried that Dongbua Shuiying would rather die than speak, but it seemed his attitude was quite good. Furthermore, he had sealed Dongbua Shuiying's soul, and it was impossible for him to commit suicide. Sacred Master was still confidently waiting for Dongbua Shuiying to tell him about the destructive world teleportation technique. Amen. Sacred Master's expression changed slightly. His gentle expression suddenly turned solemn and cold. He had sealed the energy of Dongbua Shui Ying's soul. He could feel a red light erupting from Dongbua Shui Ying's soul. It was a mysterious energy, following which Dongbua Shui Ying's soul was completely destroyed. It was an absolute destruction of his soul. Nothing remained. As for Dongbua Shui Ying, who was sitting there drinking wine, there was still a smile on his face. He was still holding onto a wine cup, but the aura of his soul had already dissipated. How is this possible? How could he die? Sacred Master's heart was pounding in disbelief. He had personally sealed it. Dongbua Shui Ying was actually able to commit suicide successfully? Initially, he had already planned that if Dongbua Shui Ying didn't speak, he would use all sorts of torture methods to torture him. If he couldn't force Dongbua Shui Ying to speak, he would use the stupidest method possible, soul search. It was destined that he would only be able to obtain bits and pieces of the destructive world teleportation technique. But it was still better than getting nothing at all. His soul dissipated? How? How did he do it? Unless he has some unique soul secret technique. Sacred Master was both anxious and furious. The destructive world teleportation technique that was within his grasp was gone, just like that. Furthermore, Dongbua Shui Ying had even purposely played along with him. He even asked for wine from him. Such teasing made Sacred Master furious. That's right. He is currently the most proficient in the illusory realm among all cultivators. As the strongest expert in the illusory realm, he should have some unique secret technique in the soul aspect. Even after being sealed by me, he was still able to commit suicide. Sacred Master could only deduce this. After all, he had never personally seen a realm heart order before, much less activated. That strand of red light, he even thought that it was a phenomenon caused by secret technique. The servants in the hall and Master Jiaming were all shocked. They could see that Dongbua Shui Ying's fleshy body was just an empty shell. He no longer had a soul. Currently, the atmosphere in the hall was stifling. They didn't dare to make a sound. Huh! Sacred Master waved his hand. A grayish lightning descended on Dongbua Shui Ying's fleshy body, instantly turning him into ashes. Only the 12 elemental beads bracelet and some secret treasures remained. Why are these cultivators so foolish? They are risking their lives to obstruct me. When I gain control of the primal chaos void, I will definitely summon him out from the primal chaos void. I will make sure that he will never be able to escape from his punishment. Sacred Master said coldly. Outside the ancient sacred world, on a piece of floating rocks, one of Mount Chaime's incarnations was here. He was constantly using the black fog spherical holes to spy on the ancient sacred world. Such a spying technique was something even Sacred Master couldn't sense. Mount Chaime had been spying on Sacred Master's palace. He actually lowered his head and admitted defeat, and took the initiative to hand over the destructive world teleportation technique. Damn it! When Mount Chaime saw Dongbua Shui Ying lowering his head, he couldn't help but feel furious. What a spineless coward. How lowly. But as he watched, he was stunned. He committed suicide? He actually succeeded in committing suicide? Ha ha! Committing suicide is good. Committing suicide is good. Even though he didn't die from the soul searching. Committing suicide is considered letting him off lightly, but at least he is dead. Mount Chaime couldn't help but reveal a smile, following which this incarnation of his dissipated silently. Seeing Dongbua Shui Ying's true body die, and even his fleshy body turn into ashes, he was satisfied. Chapter 1004. Lost World Corridor. Within a gorgeous space, the multicolored chaotic spatial flow was like ribbons. An incarnation of Dongbua Shui Ying was currently standing here, enjoying the beautiful scenery. Truly beautiful. I have been in the Lost World Corridor for 1 trillion years, yet I still feel that the void is so enchanting. Following that, this incarnation silently dissipated. All energy returned to the world. The other incarnation which was sitting cross-legged in a sealed space, also silently dissipated. The Mirage City was one of the 13 primal chaos cities in the Great Void Heaven Temple. It was constructed after Donghua Shui Ying broke through to the primal chaos realm. This place was heavily guarded. The incarnation of Donghua Shui Ying had been sleeping here for a long period of time to guard this place. The moment there was a problem, his incarnation would immediately wake up and engage in combat. Nevertheless, at this moment, this sleeping incarnation dissipated with a hua. It turned into motes of light before returning to the world. The incarnation of Halm Master Donghua has dissipated. The incarnation of Halm Master Donghua has dissipated. The guardian array spirit of the Mirage City was startled. He hurriedly reported the news upwards. It was a huge matter for the incarnation of a Halm Master to dissipate for no reason. This news was immediately reported up to the two palace masters of the Great Void Heaven Temple, Forefather Tian Yu and Sword Master. What? Forefather Tian Yu and Sword Master teleported almost at the same time to the cavern dwelling of Donghua Shuang. They arrived by the side of Jing Xiu. Jing Xiu was currently standing there in a daze. Just a moment ago, Donghua Shuang smiled at her before dissipating into motes of light. Even though she had cultivated for a very long time, Jing Xiu still felt her heart being torn apart. Her soul dissipated. Even to cosmos gods, it was certain death. Her husband mentioned that he could reincarnate into another huge world with the Realm Heart Order. Was that true? Would he return? Jing Xiu's thoughts were in a mess. Unknowingly, tears began forming in her eyes. Jing Xiu, where is Snow Eagle? Forefather Tian Yu asked. Sword Master was also anxious by the side. He died, Jing Xiu said. What's going on? What's going on? Forefather Tian Yu and the Sword Master were not willing to believe it. Actually, they had already guessed it when the incarnation in charge of guarding the Mirage City dissipated. But Donghua Shui Ying was strong, and he had a life-saving artifact, so how could he possibly die? Furthermore, in their eyes, Donghua Shui Ying was the Halm Master of the Great Void Heaven Temple with the greatest potential. He had cultivated for a short period, yet he grasped two great ninth-level techniques. They were certain that in the future, Donghua Shui Ying would become the third cosmos god of the Great Void Heaven Temple. They were even looking forward to it happily. However, everything happened so suddenly. Both of them were caught off guard. He was captured alive by the Sacred Master in an attempt to force the Snow Eagle to commit suicide. The Snow Eagle has secret arts of the soul, so he chose to commit suicide, and his soul dissipated. With a flip of her hand, Jing Xiu handed the storage bracelet over to Forefather Tian Yu. Forefather, this is what Snow Eagle left for you. Forefather Tian Yu received it and rapidly checked through it. On the wristband, Donghua Shui Ying had already attached a layer of information. Forefather Tian Yu immediately received the information when he checked through. Very soon, he understood everything. As long as you rely on treasures, you can sense the spatial markings at a relatively close distance. Then, you can easily find those 3 golden-armored graded layers. I hope Forefather can forgive Snow Eagle's selfishness for keeping this destructive realm teleportation technique a secret. It's just that Snow Eagle's comprehension ability isn't strong enough. I have only grasped the first diagram of the 4 diagrams absolute art taught by Senior Emperor Jiyun, and I haven't learned the other 3 diagrams. This destructive realm teleportation technique mustn't be taught lightly. Sacred Master has always wanted to get this secret technique. The message left behind made Forefather Tian Yu feel heartache. Selfishness? The Tao couldn't be taught lightly. Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chime placed great importance on their lineage inheritance. Donghua Shuang did not grasp many absolute arts. Even if he was unparalleled, he would not easily teach it to others. Furthermore, the destructive realm teleportation technique was extremely important. If he taught it to others, even if he taught it to 3 to 5 people, the possibility of the news being leaked would increase greatly. Once Sacred Master knew about it, Donghua Shui Ying would die. Even Dongbua Shuang, who was so cautious, lost his life because of this destructive realm teleportation technique. So it wasn't a coincidence that you discovered the golden armored graded lair previously. Instead, you have been searching for it. Now that you have explored more than half of the Lost World corridor, you have found 3 golden armored graded lairs? Forefather Tian Yu felt heartache. He really liked this junior, Dongbua Shuang, because there were all sorts of cultivators. For example, Ancestor Demon, who came from the same hometown as Dongbua Shuang. He created the Dark Abyss and believed in the law of the jungle. If he wasn't restrained by the Great Void Heaven Temple, he would have become an even more vicious devil. As for the other Swordmaster, even though he was slightly better, he was proud and aloof. He was from the same era as Ancestor Demon, and in the end, he could only restrain Ancestor Demon and not kill him. Swordmaster spent most of his time in closed-door cultivation after coming to the Great Void Heaven Temple. He cared more about how strong his cultivation was. As for Dongbua Shuang, he was different. He was similar to Void Primogenitor. Ever since he reached the My Heart as the World Realm, Dongbua Shuang had never retreated from his responsibilities. He could fully focus on cultivating. Instead, he arranged his incarnations to search for golden-armored graded lairs and to search for the destruction devils. This had indeed affected the efficiency of his cultivation. Furthermore, not many cultivators were willing to do such troublesome tasks. How long had Dongbua Shuang cultivated for? Practically 99% of his time was spent on these tasks. If Dongbua Shuang did not do these, he would not be casting his illusory realm and ultra-long distance teleportation, and he would not be discovered by Mount Chai. Given how vast the primal chaos void was by the time Mount Chai discovered it, Dongbua Shuang might have become a cosmos god. Look, Forefather Tian Yu passed the wristband to Swordmaster. Swordmaster immediately checked it after receiving it. And at another location. This was an extremely secretive void crack within the primal chaos void. There was a bizarre mountain here. Many golden streams of light were flying about within the mountain. A thin and small old man stood on a huge piece of rock. There was a faint green liquid flowing around the rock, causing it to undulate slightly. After searching for so long, I finally found the God Throne Peak. I thought this God Throne Peak had been destroyed during the previous great apocalypse of the Origin World. The thin and small old man supported himself with a walking stick. Even though he was so skinny that he was just a bag of bones, when he laughed, his eyes squinted. The God Throne Peak is the most suitable opportunity for this brat Dongbua. He specializes in the illusory realm, and he will definitely reap a huge harvest by coming to the God Throne Peak. The God Throne Peak has been settled. Next is the Origin Dreamland. That time, I created the Dreamland cultivation technique there. But now that the primitive ancient sacred world has shattered, it is hard to enter the Origin Dreamland. I have to think of other ways. The thin and small old man pondered before chuckling. Humph humph. For the sake of this disciple, I have spent a huge amount of effort. Brat Dongbua, let's see how you repay me in the future. The thin and small old man admired Dongbua Shuang greatly. In the past, he had tested Dongbua Shuang multiple times in the dark. Even though he felt that this brat was too kind to the weaker cultivators and made him suffer too much. But on the whole, he was very satisfied. He was absolutely respectful to his teacher and was not an ingrate. One must know that he did not have high expectations for his disciples. For example, when Jiezu imparted his cultivation technique, which resulted in the appearance of countless devouring sect devils, he did not care. Of course, he did not have any objections towards Dongbua Shuang being kind to the weaker cultivators. He only felt that this disciple he was about to accept was working too hard. This was the only disciple that had reaped great benefits from the Cinnabar inheritance. He was the only disciple that specialized in the soul aspect. He was still very serious. For example, when he was teaching the Black Emperor, Jiezu, and the rest, it was much easier. After all, he was already at a very high level in the physical aspect. At At the same time, he had high expectations for this disciple. The thin and small old man's expression suddenly changed. Chapter 1005. Because Dongbua Shui Ying had created the 10th transformation of the Cinnabar inheritance, this thin, small old man was able to sense it. The thin, small old man was also used to this feeling. But at this moment, the feeling disappeared. Disappeared? The thin, small old man was clear of what this meant. Hence, he felt his heart turning cold. How could this be? The thin, small old man watched from afar. Many scenes appeared in his eyes. Sacred Master waved his hand and destroyed the fleshy body of Dongbua Shui Ying. Dongbua Shui Ying's aura dissipating, and his fleshy body sitting in that palace hall in the ancient sacred world. Dongbua Shui Ying drinking wine and chatting with Sacred Master. Sacred Master capturing Dongbua Shui Ying alive. Many scenes appeared. Even if Sacred Master was present, the thin, small old man could similarly see through it. He actually dared. He dared to kill my disciple. The eyes of the thin, small old man emitted a terrifying killing intent. An incomparably horrifying black aura burst out from the surface of the thin, small old man's body. It engulfed the entire God Throne Peak, causing this ancient and mysterious God Throne Peak to tremble. Even though he had not accepted a disciple, he had already decided to take Dongbua Shui Ying as his disciple. The walking stick in the hands of the thin, small old man disappeared. He took a step before disappearing from the place. When he appeared again, he was at the core of the ancient sacred world, right in front of that towering palace hall. The ancient sacred world was protected by the ancient sacred incarnation. The ancient sacred incarnation was practically one entity with the ancient sacred world. Here, Sacred Master was practically unparalleled. Even though Sacred Master had fought with the Cosmos Gods several times, the Cosmos Gods had never dared to kill their way into the ancient sacred world. And today, this thin, small old man stood in midair outside the core sacred palace hall of the ancient sacred world. "Young devil, scram out for me," the thin, small old man roared out. A terrifying ripple rushed out from the mouth of the thin, small old man. It could be seen with the naked eye charging at the distant sacred palace hall. The sacred palace had stood for a long time and was incredibly firm, but at this moment it suddenly shattered. Furthermore, the surrounding area spanning a few 100 billion kilometers was warped and distorted, forming many cracks. An unseen energy pervaded out, forcefully stabilizing the ancient sacred world. Otherwise, just this roar alone would cause the ancient sacred world to shatter. Phew! The Holy Lord, who was draped in a black robe, walked out from the explosion. He didn't even have the time to protect the other servants. He only protected Lord Jiaming. He waved his hand and teleported Lord Jiaming away. He frowned as he looked at the skinny old man outside. "Old Monster Stone, why aren't you sleeping on the original Sun Star? What are you doing here?" Holy Leader frowned. Even though he had been attacked to the point where his base had been destroyed, the Divine Master was still unwilling to make a move despite his temperament. He wanted to keep the peace because he knew how terrifying the skinny old man before him was. "What am I doing here?" The skinny old man's body was surrounded by black chi, and his eyes were glowing with a dark yellow light. In the midst of the rolling black chi, the dark yellow light that shot out from his eyes was very eye-catching. He said in a low voice, "Little Mo, I'm too lazy to deal with you. I didn't expect you to dare to kill my disciple." "Kill your disciple? Don't you only have 3 disciples, Jiezu and the other 2? The Holy Lord was puzzled. "Dongbua Shui Ying," the skinny old man shouted angrily. He's your disciple?" Holy Leader's expression changed. "He has reached the 10th transformation of Cinnabar's legacy. Can't you tell?" The skinny old man gritted his teeth. Although he had decided to take Dongbua Shui Ying as his disciple, he had not actually taken him in. Hence, when the Holy Lord faced Dongbua Shui Ying, he did not notice anything special. As for Cinnabar's legacy, the Black Emperor had spread the legacy of the 4 extremities, and there were many who had learned it. Those people did not have the qualifications to be called Old Monster Stone's disciples. Although I feel that this disciple of mine is a little foolish, too kind, and makes himself too tired. If it were me, I would definitely not be so tired. However, I am very satisfied with this disciple of mine. The skinny old man growled, "Little Mo, you've killed him. Very good. Let me see just how strong you've become. Little Mo, don't go crazy." Holy Leader's expression changed. An incomparably huge black illusory figure appeared behind the skinny old man. The black illusory figure had a huge turtle shell, and its entire body was covered with stone-like scales. It also had a ferocious head. At this moment, Old Monster Stone was filled with rage. That little fellow had only cultivated for a short period of time. He had not even had the chance to show his strength in front of his disciple, and had taken the initiative to take him in as a disciple. He had died just like that. He was filled with rage, and he wanted to vent it out. He wanted to take revenge for his disciple. Hong Long Long, a completely black ancient sage incarnation appeared and instantly merged with the Holy Leader. Clearly, when facing this crazy old monster stone, the Holy Leader had to use his full strength. He knew that if he didn't use his full strength, he might really be killed. The Holy Leader felt bitter in his heart. He had captured Dongbua, Shui Ying alive, and prepared good wine for him. However, in the end, it was all for naught. That Dongbua Shui Ying would rather die than agree to his request. If he died, so be it. Although the Holy Leader was furious, the past was the past. It was just that the terrifying old monster stone had appeared. The Holy Leader was clear that in the entire primal chaos void, there was only one person that truly gave him a headache. It was this old monster stone who was always in deep slumber. From the birth of the primitive ancient sacred world to the destruction of the primal chaos void, Old Monster Stone might have only woken up a few times. The rest of the time, he would be in deep slumber. However, the person that the Holy Leader feared the most was this Old Monster Stone. For example, the Myriad Realm Tavern Master, Mount Chai-mei, and the mysterious and unfathomable Lord Lo Chung. In the Holy Leader's heart, the degree of threat they posed was not as high as this Old Monster Stone. But now, Old Monster Stone was clearly enraged. Regret, bitterness, helplessness. No matter how unwilling the Holy Leader was, he could only fight with his full strength. He did not wish to be beaten to death due to carelessness. At this moment, in the Great Void Heaven Temple, Forefather Tianyu, the Sword Master, and the Void Primogenitor had met up. The Void Primogenitor had also obtained the storage bracelet. Snow Eagle also said that this secret technique cannot be taught to outsiders. The ones that he truly trusts are the three of us. Forefather Tianyu said, "The Sword Master and I have seen it. However, we do not have much research on the Void. We will not be able to learn it in a short period of time." The Void Primogenitor held onto the bracelet with a sorrowful heart. How deep was his attainment in the Void? With just a single look, he was able to learn it. This destructive realm teleportation technique had opened another door for him to study the Void. However, at this moment, he did not feel any joy. He only felt sorrow and sorrow. Disciple Guqi, Master is useless. I was unable to protect you. Now, your disciple, Dongbua Shui Ying, has died in the hands of the Holy Leader. The Void Primogenitor was filled with hatred. As a martial ancestor, I am useless. Useless. I swear that even if I have to risk my life, I will kill the Holy Leader. No matter what, no matter what. The Void Primogenitor had always loved the masses. He was enraged that the Holy Leader controlled the masses. Now, his disciple and most outstanding disciple had died in the hands of the Holy Leader. There's no time to lose. We cannot let Snow Eagle's efforts go to waste. The Void Primogenitor said in a low voice, "This secret technique cannot be taught to outsiders. However, we should still get Wu Zhu, Blade Emperor, and the others to come over. We should immediately destroy the 3 golden-armored graded layers that Snow Eagle has discovered." Amen. Forefather Tianyu and the Sword Master nodded. Chapter 1006. Very soon, Wuzu, Jiezu, Blade Emperor, and the others received the news. All of them were shocked. They were shocked that the little fellow named Dongbua Shuiying had died just like that. Especially Jiezu. He knew that his master wanted to take Dongbua Shuiying as a disciple. Dongbua Shuiying had scouted most of the Lost World Corridor. Other than the golden-armored, graded lair from the previous time, he found another 3. Wuzu, Blade Emperor, and the others were surprised and happy, but they sighed at the same time. However, they did not dare to delay. Immediately, Wuzu, Void Primogenitor, and Blade Emperor worked together and headed towards the Lost World Corridor. Within the Lost World Corridor, Void Primogenitor specialized in super long-distance teleportation. Now that he had learned the destructive world teleportation technique, it was naturally much easier for him. His soul was stronger, and his realm was higher. His scouting range was much larger and clearer than Dongbua Shuiying. It's here. Void Primogenitor held onto a token left behind by Dongbua Shuiying. It was a token that could sense spatial markings. After using the destructive world teleportation technique several times, he brought Wuzu and Blade Emperor to a sealed space. Within the sealed space, Void Primogenitor found the spatial markings left behind by Dongbua Shuiying. This is the spatial markings. The golden-armored graded lair is around here. Void Primogenitor began to scout the surroundings. He sighed. Although his super long-distance teleportation could sense far away, it was very blurry. As for the destructive world teleportation technique, not only was it easy to cast, it was also 1,000 times clearer. Especially at such a close distance, it was as though he was there himself. I see it, but there is no rush. I will look for the other 2 spatial markings. Void Primogenitor said, after I confirm the locations of the 3 golden-armored graded lairs, I will take action. It is fine if I don't act, but once I act, I must destroy the 3 golden-armored graded lairs with extreme speed. All right, Wuzu and Blade Emperor agreed. Dongbua Shuiying had painstakingly searched for the spatial markings left behind for 1 trillion years. With Void Primogenitor's guidance, it was much easier to locate them. Move out. Within a golden-armored graded lair, one of the destruction devils who was responsible for guarding the place looked with astonishment at the 3 figures who walked out of the distorted space. He had just transmitted a message to the kings when that golden-robed cultivator erupted with endless blade lights. The surging blade lights howled and destroyed the entire lair space. In terms of destructive power, among Saber Emperor, Wuzu, and Jiezu, Saber Emperor was the strongest. Of course, the current Swordmaster could compete with him. Let's go to the next one. The 3 of them were extremely fast. Actually, the reason why Ancestor Sorcerer followed them was to prevent them from facing the group of kings of the Destruction Devils. As long as Ancestor Sorcerer and Blade Emperor worked together, they would be able to fight against the kings of the Destruction Devils. Whoosh, 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 the saber light howled like a tidal wave, destroying the Annihilation Lair. It's easy for us to find him, but if Snow Eagle wants to find him, he'll definitely search everywhere. That Mount Chime could not find a single golden-armored, graded lair even after such a long time. It isn't easy for Snow Eagle to find 4 in total. Void Primogenitor discovered it too. His realm was considered high, yet he could only scout the nearby areas. With how vast the Lost World Corridor was, it would take him a long time to finish scouting the entire lair. If he were to rest and cultivate after scouting for a while, it would take even longer. Even though Mount Chime charged a high fee to scout the lair in the past, he was not as diligent as Dongbua Shuiying. A breath of time was still a form of scouting. The time taken to brew a cup of tea was also a form of scouting. The efficiency was naturally worlds apart. What? They are all destroyed? 3 golden-armored graded lairs are destroyed? The kings of the Destruction Devils who received the news were all stunned. Even the strongest Emperor June was incredibly shocked. They rapidly arrived at one of the destroyed, golden-armored, graded lair space. This entire space had long been shattered. They were all looking at it in a daze. There were still remnants of sharp blade lights in the surroundings. "It's Blade Emperor." Emperor June muttered. "What is going on? What is going on with the cultivator cosmos gods? Why would they consecutively destroy 3 golden-armored, graded layers? How did they discover it?" These kings were all stunned. They felt a chill in their hearts, because they were clear that they, the destruction devils, were at an absolute disadvantage when compared to the cultivators. Currently, they only had the strength to defend. Even if they infiltrated into the world of the cultivators, they had to do so stealthily. They did not have the strength to attack the cultivators head-on. The only advantage they had was that their numbers would increase at a faster pace. The layers would continuously produce destruction devils. As their numbers increased, the number of kings would also increase. The previous time, when a golden armored graded layer was destroyed, they already fell heartache. This time, they actually lost another 3. There are only 2 remaining. 2 golden armored graded layers will take a much longer time to produce golden armored destruction devils. I wonder when the 3rd and 4th layers will be born. The kings of the destruction devils present were slightly panicking. What I'm most afraid of is that they might discover the final 2 layers after destroying 3. Rest assured, the further we go, the faster the layers will be born. Emperor June muttered. Right now, they are merely slowing down the rate of US being born. In the later stages, the rate of US being born will become even more exaggerated, and they can't kill all of us. Wu Zhu, Blade Emperor, Void Primogenitor, and the others had returned. This trip was easy for them, and they had succeeded. We succeeded? Forefather Tian Yu and Sword Master saw Wu Zhu, Blade Emperor, and Void Primogenitor walking out from the distorted void. This time, after discovering 3 golden armored graded layers, we should still give Dongbua Shui Ying 300,000 Origin World rocks, right? Wu Zhu sighed. It's a pity that he has died, but we can't bully him either. This should be given to his loved ones. There's no rush. They are still weak, and giving them treasures isn't a good thing. I'll arrange for it. Forefather Tian Yu said. Amen. Everyone present nodded. The stronger an expert was, the more they were unwilling to owe others. They felt that they owed Dongbua Shui Ying, and now they could only repay it to Dongbua Shui Ying's family. Amen. The expressions of Wu Zhu, Jie Zhu, Sword Master, Blade Emperor, Forefather Tian Yu, and the others changed. They turned their heads abruptly and looked toward a certain direction. That was the ancient sacred world, because they had sensed an incomparably terrifying fluctuation earlier. One must know that they were able to sense it from such a far distance. What level of fluctuation was that? Just thinking about it caused them to tremble. Ancient sacred world. Old Monster Stone and Sacred Master had already fought to the point where the surrounding area had been destroyed. The entire ancient sacred world was being maintained by an invisible force. If not for Sacred Master doing his best to protect the ancient sacred world, it would have been destroyed. An enormous black monster hovered in midair. It was the true body of Old Monster Stone. Currently, a black pillar of light had pierced through the black monster's abdomen and came out from its shell, leaving behind a huge hole. Who? The enormous black figure disappeared and turned into a skinny old man. The black pillar of light in the distance condensed into Sacred Master, who was draped in a black robe. Sacred Master's expression was extremely ugly, and the aura of the skinny old man was somewhat weak. You're crazy. Crazy. Sacred Master gritted his teeth. You've accumulated quite a lot of source energy. To think that even after burning the ancient sacred incarnation, you managed to injure my source energy. The skinny old man said in a low voice. Sacred Master was infuriated in his heart. His ancient sacred incarnation's source energy was burnt to the point where he had to risk his life to injure this old man. Old Monster Stone, you're already severely injured. I'm afraid you're only left with 40 to 50% of your original strength. You can't do anything to me now. Also, even though I was the one who captured that Dongbua Shui Ying alive, it was that little fella named Mount Chime who intentionally leaked the news to me. Mount Chime? Countless scenes appeared in the eyes of the skinny old man, Old Monster Stone. Right, it's him. How could he be so careless? He must have intentionally leaked the news to me. Sacred Master said. He didn't mind being used before this. But things were different now. He had suffered such a huge loss, and his strongest trump card, the ancient sacred incarnation, had been used up. How could he let that Mount Chime have it easy? He couldn't kill him. However, Old Monster Stone was capable of killing him. This was the third break. There would be a total of 5 breaks today. He had to work hard to catch up. Chapter 1007. Scenes appeared in the eyes of the skinny old man. Mount Chime's incarnation spying on the outside of the ancient sacred world, feeling pleased because of Dongbua Shui Ying's death. Mount Chime intentionally leaking information. Mount Chime asking his master for help. Myriad Realms Tavern Master assassinating Dongbua Shui Ying. Mount Chime persuading Myriad Realms Tavern Master to make a move. Following the trail of Mount Chime, he spied on the recent experiences of his true body and incarnation. Clearly, in terms of spying, he was better than the Sacred Master. And the results of the spying were obvious. The Sacred Master did not lie. Everything was driven by Mount Chime. Even Myriad Realms' Tavern Master was not enthusiastic about this matter. Phew! The skinny old man glanced at the Sacred Master before disappearing. The Sacred Master stood there, his eyes cold. Mount Chime? Using me? If he did not suffer any losses, he would not care about Mount Chime's use. But the losses this time were too great. Naturally, he would vent his anger on Mount Chime. He could not kill Mount Chime himself, so he naturally thought of Old Monster Stone, who was at the same level as him. Old Monster Stone had also reached the ultimate realm. Moreover, Old Monster Stone's path of cultivation did not rely on external factors. Instead, he focused on himself, from the inside to the outside. Not only had his fleshly body been cultivated to an unimaginable level, but his body's control over the entire primal chaos void had also reached an extremely high level. With a thought, his fleshly body could appear anywhere in the primal chaos void. His powerful will could forcefully probe everything that had happened in the past. His strength came from his own body. What he pursued was to become extremely powerful and eventually break out of the cage of the primal chaos void. And what the Sacred Master pursued was to control the primal chaos void and become its master. At that time, he would naturally be able to leap out of this cage. Since the path he walked was different, his methods were naturally different as well. Old Monster Stone's cultivation was too powerful. Even Jezu, who had obtained a portion of his legacy, the Sacred Master would not be able to harm a single hair on Jezu under normal circumstances. Even though Old Monster Stone had been severely injured earlier, that attack was the strongest attack that the Holy Master could unleash after burning his ancient sage incarnation. Since he was unable to unleash it after that, he was no longer a threat to Old Monster Stone. However, Old Monster Stone's strength had been greatly reduced, and he was no longer a threat to the Holy Master. After all, the Holy Master was only an ancient sage clone. His true body was unharmed. Primal Chaos Void, Azure Heaven Realm Mount, Chime was currently being served by the beautiful maidservant, drinking wine in satisfaction. He was in an extremely good mood. Fight with me, dying in such a simple and painless manner. He really got off lightly. Mount Chime sneered as he drank his wine. He was able to use the high and mighty sacred lord to kill that Dongbua brat. Mount Chime felt a sense of accomplishment. After all, not everyone could make use of the Holy Leader. Even after making use of the Holy Leader would just pretend not to see it. Because he had the doppelganger technique, they couldn't do anything to him. Mount Chime frowned as he looked ahead. A skinny elder holding a walking stick crossed the threshold and walked into the hall. The guards outside the hall did not move at all, and the surrounding space seemed to freeze. Mount Chime's heart trembled as he felt an incredibly terrifying threat. Senior is? Mount Chime immediately got up and was quite respectful. He knew when to lower his head. This person in front of him gave him an unprecedented sense of threat. He felt that this person was not inferior to the Sacred Lord. Because he had been killed by the Sacred Lord once, he had the doppelganger technique, so he had been fine. Dong Shui Ink did not offend you. Just because he can use the destructive world teleportation technique, you want to kill him? The skinny elder looked at the red-browed man in front of him. He had investigated Mount Chaime's past and found that Mount Chaime was extremely selfish and had even wanted to use his master. With his personality, he looked down on this kind of cultivator and was not willing to take in such a disciple. This idiot had used the Sacred Lord's greed to kill his own disciple. Dong was Shuang? I didn't kill him. I can't kill him either. Mount Chaime hurriedly said, Senior is wise. This has nothing to do with me. My senior apprentice brother did make a move, but couldn't do anything to him. He is extremely powerful and has a secret life-saving treasure in the destructive world teleportation technique. I'm afraid only the Sacred Lord can kill him. From Mount Chaime's point of view, he had done it cleanly. Naturally, he would not admit it. You're not admitting it? The skinny elder, Old Monster Stone, chuckled. His laughter caused Mount Chaime's heart to turn cold. Do you think you can hide what you did from me? All right, just obediently accept your death. The surroundings seemed to freeze. Mount Chaime's heart trembled. He felt that he couldn't move at all. It's fine. So what if he is powerful? I have the doppelganger technique. Even the Sacred Lord can't kill me. Mount Chaime thought to himself. However, he felt a little heartache. It seems that all my weapons and treasures are gone. What a pity. Hua! The skinny elder before him laughed coldly. He had sensed Mount Chaime's true body and found another doppelganger. Although that doppelganger had layers of interference, he cultivated his own body. So he had to forcibly suppress the entire primal chaos void. All disturbances were forcibly broken by him, and he instantly discovered the body that was hidden in the depths of the primal chaos void in a cave dwelling in the depths of a continent. The skinny elder suddenly disappeared. Mount Chaime was stunned. He had disappeared for just an instant. Following that, he appeared again. At this moment, the skinny elder was holding onto another Mount Chaime. Ow, how is this possible? The doppelganger that had just been caught had a look of terror in its eyes. The doppelganger of Mount Chaime, who was standing behind the table, was similarly terrified. Their lineage had deep attainments in the void. The cave dwelling that his doppelganger was hiding in had been personally reinforced by his master. He felt that it was impossible for anyone to find his doppelganger. But now, the truth was right before his eyes. This mysterious old fellow had actually captured his doppelganger. Master! Mount Chaime's two doppelgangers immediately cried for help. Spare me. Senior, please spare me. On the surface, his two doppelgangers were begging for mercy. Suddenly, an invisible ripple emanated. The skinny elder, eccentric stone, held onto one of Mount Chaime's doppelgangers with one hand as he sneered at this scene. He was in no hurry to kill Mount Chaime. Instead, he was watching the invisible ripple emanate. Following that, a transparent figure appeared. It was a bird-headed transparent figure. Master, save me. Mount Chaime's two doppelgangers cried for help. The bird-headed transparent figure looked at the skinny elder, eccentric stone. His somewhat transparent brows furrowed slightly. For a moment, he could not recognize the skinny elder's identity. He felt somewhat puzzled. Other than the sacred master, there was such a powerful existence in the primal chaos void. You are the one who snuck into our primal chaos void? The skinny elder, eccentric stone, sneered. I have been sleeping all this while and have ignored you. You are an outsider. How dare you? Fellow Taoist, please give me some face and spare my disciple's life. The bird-headed transparent figure continued speaking. Give me some face? You? Just as his voice faded, pong. The body of Mount Chaime that the skinny elder was holding exploded. Mount Chaime, who was standing behind the table, exploded as well. Both of them turned into nothingness. He died instantly. Chapter 1008. The bird-headed, transparent figure became furious. This thin, small old man in front of him was not in a rush to kill him. Instead, he waited for him to appear before killing him. Clearly, this old man was purposely slapping his face. Furthermore, he had only accepted 2 disciples in this primal chaos void. He was quite fond of his youngest disciple, Mount Chime, because the other party suited his temperament. You are an outsider. No matter how strong you are, you'll be suppressed to the primal chaos realm in this primal chaos void. A mere primal chaos realm dares to ask me to give you face? The thin, small old man, old monster stone, sneered. If it was Yuan and Lord Lo Chung who came, I would naturally give you face. But you want me to give you face? Humph. The bird-headed transparent figure was furious. No matter how strong you are, you can only stay in this origin world of yours. You can't leave, and you're still looking down on me? He was furious. He grasped the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique and was able to travel to other origin worlds. Naturally, he was knowledgeable and learned many secret techniques. Under normal circumstances, existences at the same level would befriend him and exchange absolute arts. Who would have thought that this old man did not give him any face? Scram! The thin, small old man roared out. Huh! A terrifying black air current erupted from the surface of his body and crushed over. The bird-headed, transparent, humanoid figure didn't even have time to escape and was crushed into pieces. However, this was merely one of his avatars. As the master of the Myriad Realm Tavern Master, he also had countless avatars. You dared to put on airs in my territory? You're just an outsider. The eyes of the thin, small old man were filled with cold intent. Sacred Master, and he were both life forms within this primal chaos void. Both of them could perfectly unleash their strength. An outsider, even if their realms were the same, would be extremely weak in this world. Sigh. Fighting and killing along the way, old Monster Stone vented the anger in his heart. At this moment, the thin, small old man, old Monster Stone, sighed. No matter what, the disciple he liked and valued, Ying, had died. Previously, he had prepared many opportunities for Dongbua Ying, but they were all wasted. Time to sleep, time to sleep. I will wake up when this primal chaos void is about to be destroyed. Old Monster Stone was slightly dispirited. Cough, cough. He coughed twice. The Sacred Master's all-out attack had indeed injured his foundation. Young Devil Child Amo is quite ruthless. His true body isn't injured at all. However, the ancient sacred incarnation's energy has been exhausted. I'm afraid he'll only be tormented again when the primal chaos void is about to be destroyed. Old Monster Stone shook his head and disappeared with a step. On the original Sunstar. On the gigantic fireball, a gigantic black figure appeared. This gigantic black figure slowly sank into the primordial sun and entered a deep slumber. He cultivated and healed his injuries in his sleep. Dongbua, Dongbua, and Qing Yao sat there in a daze. They had just found out and found it hard to accept. How powerful was their father? That time, he was a true god ruler and did not die after entering the vast primal chaos void. Currently, he had reached an extremely powerful realm and could fight with cosmos gods. Yet he died in the hands of a sacred lord? That was a sacred master who could fight against all other cosmos gods by himself. Even though their hearts were filled with hatred, the siblings felt helpless. They were not as talented as Dongbua Ying. They did not even have the confidence to break through to the primal chaos realm. The path of cultivation is like this. There are all sorts of obstacles, and your father could not overcome them. Jing Xiu said, but I am still proud of him. He did not beg or lower his head when facing the sacred master. The two of you should cultivate properly in the future, because no one will be able to shelter you from the wind and rain in the future. Amen. Dongbua, Dongbua, and Qing Yao nodded. Jing Xiu suddenly became startled because a figure appeared in her mind. It was the appearance of Jiezu. Jing Xiu, your husband Dongbua Ying should have become my junior disciple brother. It's a pity that my teacher has already fought with the sacred master and heavily injured him. Furthermore, my teacher has acted and killed Mount Chime. In the future, You should take good care of the children of Dongbua Shuang. If you have any trouble, you can come and find me." Saying that illusory figure of Jiezu dissipated in her mind. Mount Chaimei is dead? Jing Xiu was startled. Even the sacred master could not kill him, yet the teacher of Jiezu killed him? Jiezu had a teacher, and he even heavily injured the sacred master? Jing Xiu had too many doubts in her mind. At the same time, Jiezu promised that he could find her if he had any trouble. This made Jing Xiu feel the influence of her husband. Jing Xiu did not know. After this battle, even the sacred master felt slight regret, because the losses this time were too great. He would have to lay low for a very long period. No matter what, in this primal chaos void, that person called Dongbua Shuang disappeared just like that. His figure was no longer on this stage. Even though Dongbua Shuang deduced from Yuan's methods that Yuan should disdain from scheming, he would not feel at ease until the final moment. After activating the energy of the Realm Heart Order, a strand of Dongbua Shuang's true spirit was enveloped by the energy of the Realm Heart Order. He instantly left the primal chaos void. Because he no longer had a soul and was only left with the weakest strand of true spirit that contained his memories, Dongbua Shuang's perception of the outside world was extremely weak. Even after leaving the primal chaos void and arriving in the outside world, he could barely sense the chaotic energy fluctuations outside. Those were energy fluctuations with a suppressive nature. What made him feel fear was that he understood that even if his body was still present, if he entered the outside world, he would be instantly destroyed. Under the envelopment of the Realm Heart Order's energy, he seemed to be moving along a special pathway at high speed. Time passed by minutes and seconds. A very long time passed. 1 day, 2 days, or a year and a half. Advancing in this strange pathway, Dongbua Shuang's strand of true spirit perception of time became blurry. He could no longer accurately judge time. Or perhaps, in such a place, time no longer held any meaning. Occasionally, Dongbua Shuang could faintly feel an incomparably huge fluctuation. Those were fluctuations that could rival the primal chaos void, following which it would rapidly pass by. A very long time, it continued advancing. The energy of the Realm Heart Order was gradually being consumed along the way. Only 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%. Amen? This is... Dongbua Shuang suddenly became excited because he felt a huge and terrifying fluctuation. This time, it did not pass by him. Instead, it was rapidly approaching him. Close to half of the energy has been consumed. It seems I'm about to reach the Realm Heart Great Land. That mysterious senior, Yuan's, truly unfathomable for him to teleport me so far. Dongbua Shuang was even more certain that what that Yuan said should be true. As he got closer to that terrifying fluctuation, he finally clashed into it. Under the protection of the Realm Heart Order's energy, Dongbua Shuang's strand of true spirit directly entered this vast world. Furthermore, it rapidly tunneled into an embryo that was currently being nurtured. Dongbua Shuang could feel the powerful life force contained within this embryo. The life force of an embryo that is still being nurtured is so terrifying. Closely following that, Dongbua Shuang's consciousness fused into the embryo. This strand of true spirit of his boomed before he lost his consciousness. Chapter 1009. In the vast Realm Heart Great Land, close to the Black Prisonine Sea, there was a relatively huge nation called the Southern Cloud Nation. Southern Cloud Nation, Ardent Fire City. The Ardent Fire City occupied an area spanning 50 billion kilometers. There were many cultivators and sects within. There was even an incarnation of a cosmos god guarding this place. And the city master of the Ardent Fire City was Marquis Ardent Fire, a primal chaos giant. At this moment, within the residence of Marquis Ardent Fire, there were many soldiers, servants, and guests. Within an unremarkable little courtyard, "Mother, you should lie down and rest." There's no need to be angry with that female servant. A green-robed girl carefully supported a madam onto a reclining chair. The madam softly nodded. She laid there. She felt fatigued. She gently caressed her stomach. Her stomach was slightly protruding. A consciousness gradually awakened. I succeeded in reincarnating? Dongbua Shui Ying's consciousness gradually awakened. Even though his soul was currently weak, he had reached the my heart as the world level. His soul might be weak, but its quality was extraordinary. He had long worn a robe on his body. Usually, when one's heart realm broke through to the third level from the second level, there would be a phenomenon where one could no longer control their aura. Their soul ripples would spread out in all directions, and many cultivators would discover it. But Dongbua Shui Ying's control over his soul was formidable. He did not leak any aura, and he could clearly observe his body. Amen. A strand of my true spirit has indeed reincarnated under the supreme law of this realm heart great land. It has perfectly fused into this soul. Dongbua Shui Ying was satisfied. Even though his soul was weak, it was still at the peak of the deity realm. Furthermore, it was at the third level of heart realm. This body of mine? Dongbua Shui Ying observed his little fleshy body in the embryo. Currently, this body had both hands and feet. Looking at the fifth limb, he let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I'm a male. He still had his memories. If he were to reincarnate as a female, he would not be able to endure it. He was afraid that he would have to control his body to change its gender. But powerful cultivators could observe the fetus in the stomach. If a fetus was discovered to be a female early on and turned into a male later on, it would definitely arouse suspicions. The life force of my body is quite strong. It is still an embryo, yet it is comparable to a world deity. Dongbua Shui Ying sighed inwardly. Even though his vitality was strong, his body was only at the deity level. However, it was still growing, and Dongbua Shui Ying believed that it would only get stronger and stronger. It seems like there's still a long time before he is born. Given how strong his life force is, if he continues to grow at this rate, he would at least be a world deity when he is born. He might even be a real god. Dongbua Shui Ying found it hard to believe. True God? In his world, newborns in the sacred world were usually only transcendents. Even the children of cosmos gods would not be true gods the moment they were born. According to what Yuan said, the foundation of the realm heart great land is much deeper than that of the primal chaos void. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself, for a child to be this strong, even at the embryonic stage, the bloodline was definitely not the only factor. After all, the children of cosmos gods and the primal chaos void had cultivated later on. There were probably some secret techniques, like the void creatures. Some unique void creatures were void gods the moment they were born. Even the weaker ones were born as true god hegemons. Some cultivators had long been researching whether they could allow their children to be born like the void creatures, becoming true gods or void gods. Unless the realm heart great land has researched out a similar secret technique, Dongbua Shui Ying no longer thought about it. He believed he would understand this information soon after his child was born. Inner observation. Dongbua Shui Ying began thoroughly inspecting his fleshy body. If he wanted to, he could easily kill a true god hegemon with just a single glance. The will contained within his gaze was enough to kill a true god. Naturally, his soul was able to observe his fleshy body with great detail. It's in my blood? Dongbua Shui Ying continued analyzing. He soon discovered something. The internal structure of the particles in his blood was very complex. It was as if many profound three-dimensional diagrams were fused together. Some were superfluous, and some were the main body. These three-dimensional array diagrams. Some were huge and clear, and some were tiny and weak. But some of these tiny array diagrams contain an ancient and distant concept. That was a concept that was deeper than the 10th transformation of the Cinnabar inheritance and the destruction 9-petaled flower that he created in the past. Even though the largest three-dimensional array diagram was extremely clear, its concept was very weak. Donghua Shuang deduced that it should be at the void god origin birth realm or unity realm. The reason why his judgment was so vague was because Donghua Shuang did not understand the laws and profound mysteries of the realm heart great land. He merely relied on the feeling given by the arrayed diagram and his experience to make a vague judgment. Bloodline, and there are many bloodlines hidden in my body. Donghua Shuang was startled. The bloodline cultivation system was an extremely huge system where he came from. He had naturally researched about it and understood that there were many bloodlines hidden in this fleshy body of his. That ancient and distant grand perfection concept he deduced had surpassed the 9th level, and there were a total of 8 bloodlines that belonged to cosmos gods. But they were all extremely weak. They should have been separated by many generations. Instead, the most obvious bloodlines were the weaker ones. This fleshy body of mine is indeed suitable for the bloodline cultivation technique. Donghua Shuang was inwardly delighted. It was easy to cultivate the bloodline cultivation technique. For instance, his disciple Xing Huasun easily reached the unity realm in the past. His father, Xing Hua Emperor, was at the primal chaos realm. Because Xing Huasun was his biological son, the bloodline of his father in his body should be very concentrated, allowing him to cultivate quickly. As for himself, he naturally leaned towards the cosmos god bloodline. Even though it was weak, his realm was high. Even though the laws and profound mysteries of this world had undergone a huge change with his previous foundation, it was still relatively easy for him to cultivate it. It was hard to improve the laws and profound mystery system, but he would definitely improve his bloodline cultivation system much faster. I should first cultivate the bloodline cultivation system to increase my power. That way, my soul will become stronger. Once my soul becomes stronger, my speed of deducing and comprehending will also explosively increase. Donghua Shuang pondered. He was used to the speed of his soul when he was at the primal chaos realm. At this moment, his soul at the peak of the deity realm, the essence of the 3rd level heart realm, was comparatively slower by a few times. Sharpening a knife would not delay the work of chopping wood. To him, cultivating the bloodline cultivation system was akin to sharpening his blade. After all, the bloodline cultivation system would only allow him to reach the primal chaos realm at the very most. I should first have a look at the laws and profound mysteries of this realm heart great land and the place where I came from. Donghua Shuang began focusing his senses. The supreme law pervaded everywhere. Naturally, this embryo contained some law ripples too. Donghua Shuang extended his consciousness. Previously, his realm was high, yet he did not understand a single bit of the laws and profound mysteries of this realm heart great land. Naturally, he had to start from scratch. Mirage, void, ripple, slaughter. Donghua Shuang first sensed what he was most familiar with. Previously, he mainly cultivated the Tao of mirage, slaughter, and ripple. But because of Walker's hidden secret, Emperor Jiyun's 4 diagrams absolute art, General Mo, Gu, scaled armor, and the trillion years of cultivation in the Lost World corridor, Donghua Shuang had accumulated a deep understanding of the void. Strictly speaking, of the 4 great aspects, the mirage was ranked first, and the void was ranked second. Slaughter was third, and ripple was fourth. Whoa! As he concentrated on sensing the supreme law for half a month or so, he no longer had any doubts. Instead, he had a clear judgment. The story of the realm heart great land began. Chapter 10:10. This will be troublesome. What Yuan said is right. The supreme law in the realm heart great land is entirely different from where I came from. Many laws and profound mysteries under the supreme law have changed too. Even though Donghua Shuang found it troublesome, he was not worried. Even though the profound mysteries were different, many structures were similar. There are also supreme law, cosmos law, and primal chaos level law. With his accumulations, he was confident of cultivating further. Furthermore, this is also a form of tempering. Cultivating under a different supreme law is a form of tempering for me. This way, I should have a greater chance of breaking through to the cosmos god realm. Donghua Shuang thought. Yuan had mentioned in the information contained in the Realm Heart Order that one would have a deeper foundation after coming to the Realm Heart Great Land. Furthermore, cultivating under a different supreme law would be beneficial to breaking through to the cosmos god realm. I specialize in 4 Tao paths: Mirage, Slaughter, and Ripple. These 3 Tao paths have huge variations. Only the Void is more similar. Donghua Ying let out a sigh of relief. He believed that he would improve the fastest in the Tao of Void, no matter if it is the Primal Chaos Void or the Realm Heart Great Land. To these 2 origin worlds, the Void is an important component of the origin world. It is logical that the Void is more similar. Just half a month or so, Shuang had reached the deity realm in the aspect of the Void. This was because his soul was too weak and his comprehension was too slow. Let me sense the outside world. Donghua Shuang did not dare to extend his soul ripple out. After all, this fleshy body and bloodline should have an extraordinary origin. He merely focused and listened to the sounds coming from the outside world. Mother, calm down. How is this female servant here to serve me? She is simply here to anger me. In the outside world within the house, a madam wrapped in a thick gown laid there. She could not help but say, "That time, I have rejected her many times." Yet the Marquis Dom still arranged for this female servant to come over. This is the rule of the Marquis Dom. Mother, since you are pregnant, they will naturally arrange for this female servant. Both of our statuses are low in the residence. As long as this female servant isn't foolish, she will definitely listen to the eldest madam. We have to endure and not create any trouble. If we do, we might suffer even more if we infuriate the eldest madam. I only hate myself for being useless, barely becoming a true deity. My status is only a bit better than that of a female servant. The green-clothed woman said in a low voice, "It's not your fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me for being weak, and blame your father for being ruthless." The woman sighed. "Father?" The green-robed woman also shook her head. The children had long been disappointed in their fathers. Perhaps they could see them from afar, but their fathers might not even recognize them. After all, some children never saw their father after they were born. Creak. The door to the courtyard suddenly opened. This caused a mother and daughter pair in the room to look outside. A female servant came in with a wooden tray and said indifferently, "Madam, this is the 7th Dawn Spirit scented tea sent from the mansion." The mother and daughter hurriedly stood up because they saw an old man standing outside the courtyard with a glance. The old man was coldly looking into the courtyard. The woman hurriedly walked over and obediently received the bowl of 7th Dawn Spirit scented tea. She tilted her head back and drank it. This bowl of 7 Dawn Spirit scented tea was something she could not afford even if she saved up for her entire life. It was prepared by the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom for every single baby in the process of gestation, so that they could grow stronger. Amen. The old man watched the woman drink it before turning around and leaving. Only then did the mother and daughter return to the house. The female servant outside sneered before walking out. She was too lazy to serve this madam. She did not think highly of this madam. After all, if not for her pregnancy, this madam would have an extremely low status within the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom. She was not much better than the female servant. She was not qualified to have servants serve her. After all, there were 100,000 such madams within the huge Ardent Fire Marquis Dom. Any random son of Marquis Ardent Fire would have dozens or even hundreds of women. Marquis Ardent Fire originally had 36 children. The number of children and grandchildren he had was even more uncountable. Hence, the direct descendants of Marquis Ardent Fire did not have a noble status. Only those who could become void gods had a slightly more important status. As for the large number of madams, their statuses were naturally lower, unless they gave birth to very formidable children. A mother's status would depend on their children. I keep feeling that the medicinal effect of the 7th Dawn Spirit scented tea is weaker than what the rumors say. Within the house, The woman transmitted, AI, your little brother is born in my stomach and is naturally weak. If the seventh dawn spirit Senati isn't helpful enough, he might not become a true god after birth. With a weak bloodline, it would be harder for him to cultivate in the future. Mother, the eldest madam does not dare to forbid you from drinking the seventh dawn spirit scented tea, but it is still easy for her to do some tricks. The green-robed girl transmitted back. These words did not dare to be loud. Your little brother should be the 340th child of your father, right? He is innately weak, and his future should be bleak. Your father might even disdain to come and take a look. The woman shook her head. She was once an ordinary girl within the ardent fire city. It was only because of her looks that she was captured and brought to the residence. That was why that husband of hers had ordered someone to summon her over for a visit before throwing her to the back of his mind. On the other side, that lowly servant has already drunk the seventh dawn spirit scented tea. The old man respectfully said. Seated, there was a red-robed girl with a grand aura. She was at the void god unity realm. Amen, this lowly servant is quite good at giving birth. Previously, she gave birth to a daughter. Who would have thought that that trash would dote on her again? And this time, she got pregnant with a boy. The red-robed girl sneered. It's useless. It's useless no matter how many these lowly servants give birth to. Madam, a shout could be heard coming from outside. A middle-aged male ran in. He bowed with a cheeky smile. Madam, I don't have a single cosmos crystal left now. Ingshan Lai, who you only know how to play and eat. What Grandpa Marquis gave to you will be wasted by you sooner or later. This is the last one for this year. Don't come and find me for more this year. There's nothing left even if you ask for more. The red-robed girl angrily waved her hand. A storage wristband was thrown over. The middle-aged male immediately refined it after receiving it. Only then did he turn around and leave with a cheeky smile. Many thanks, madam. This trash. The red-robed girl became angry the moment she saw her husband. Her husband was merely a true god ruler. He was not even a void god. Fortunately, he was one of the biological sons of Marquis Ardenfire. Furthermore, he was the second child. Marquis Ardenfire had given birth to such a son when he was relatively weak, and he still had feelings for him. That was why he had transferred some of the resources within the Marquis Ardenfire residence to this second son. Marquis Ardenfire was the city master. Many lands, cavern dwellings, and shops in the Ardenfire city belonged to him. Furthermore, Marquis Ardenfire had constructed 9 great cities. Marquis Ardenfire had arranged for an incarnation of his to fall into a deep sleep in every city. Naturally, many resources in the great cities belonged to Marquis Ardenfire, and Marquis Ardenfire had also distributed many of them. The clan actually wants me to marry such trash. The red-robed girl felt frustrated. She came from an aristocratic clan and had a noble status. She was also at the Unity realm. Naturally, her bloodline was pure. Marquis Ardenfire clearly had feelings for his second son. After asking for this marriage, he hoped that some of the children of his second son would appear. But it is fortunate that he is trash. The red-robed girl sneered inwardly. Ever since she married over, many lands, shops, and other resources under her husband's name had naturally fallen into her hands. Many of them had even been transferred to her own son under various pretexts. For instance, it was a gift from her father to his son. It was just that she was afraid of the feelings Marquis Ardenfire had for her husband. Hence, she still had to comply with her husband on the surface. Within the stomach of his mother, Dongbua Shui Ying was attentively listening to the voices of the outside world. After hearing some of the complaint from his mother and sister, he had gained some understanding. What? I am father's 340th child? Cultivators can actually have so many children? In his hometown, the stronger an expert was, the harder it would be for him to have children. Like himself and Jing Xiao, they only had Yu and Qing Yao when they were still weak in the material realm. After that, they did not have any more children. 340? That was too crazy. It seems that mother's status in this marquisdom is quite low. Dongbua Shuiying thought. He did not mind it. He controlled his body to absorb the nourishment transmitted over by the 7 Dawn spirit-scented tea, even though some tricks had been done, causing the medicinal effect to be much weaker. Every bit he absorbed was still a bit. To Dongbua Shuang, even if he did not have any external help, it was not hard for him to raise his strength. I should first slowly accumulate. I wonder how long I have to stay in the womb. Dongbua Shuang could vaguely feel that there was still a long time before he was born. Chapter 10:11. Being someone who had once created 2 great 9th-level techniques and could fight against cosmos gods, Dongbua Shuang had made his decision after sensing the laws and profound mysteries in the realm Heart Great Land. According to what this mother of mine said, the child in my stomach is innately weak. Dongbua Shuang sighed inwardly. Who would have thought that my life force is comparable to that of a world deity, yet it is still weak? Furthermore, this mother of mine has a very low status in the residence. She is weak too, and her vision should not be too high. Since she said that the child in her stomach is weak, then it must be very weak. Amen. This Marquis Dom actually prepared spiritual medicine for every child. Clearly, they value the bloodline of the child. Since that's the case, I'll have to be stunning when I'm born. I'll be a heaven's pride from birth, and the entire Marquis Dom would do their best to groom me. Even if I become slightly more talented in the future, it should be understandable. Dongbua Shuang made his decision. He had to make himself a heaven's pride. Of the 4 Dao paths I am most familiar with, the one that is most similar to the realm Heart Great Land in the primal chaos void is the void. Cultivating in the void is 10 to 100 times easier. Dongbua Shuang nodded inwardly. I shall choose this. Furthermore, Dongbua Shuang discovered something. The many bloodlines hidden in his body had their own specialties. Clearly, they were all bestowed by his ancestors, of which there were a total of 11 void-related bloodlines, though they seem to be slightly weaker. Of these 11 void bloodlines, the strongest was at the cosmos god level. Even though it was extremely weak, it was not a problem to Dongbua Shuang. Looking at my bloodline, it seems the ancestor of my lineage should be leaning towards the flame. Dongbua Shuang thought, it's a pity that I'm not specialized in the flame. I shall choose the void bloodline of that cosmos god. I shall choose this. Shuang decided that his bloodline cultivation path would be to stimulate the weak bloodline left behind in his body by this cosmos god existence after an unknown number of generations. Time passed, day by day, month by month. The fetus in the womb gradually became stronger, and it naturally stepped into the world deity realm. Its soul also became stronger, and its cultivation speed increased. Its understanding of the void bloodline deepened as well. Dongbua Shuang's cultivation realm was simply too high. His cultivation realm was simply too high. However, he still gently absorbed the power of heaven and earth from the outside world. Although it was gentle, he was constantly absorbing it. Every bit of power of heaven and earth that he absorbed was perfectly fused into the fetus body, causing it to continuously grow stronger. I've been in my mother's womb for 3 years. Why do I feel like I'm still far from being born? Dongbua Shuang was puzzled. How long am I supposed to stay in my mother's womb? Within the ardent fire Marquis Dom, within a remote little courtyard, there is only a disobedient maid serving her. But Rongxinglan's heart was filled with joy recently because she saw hope. My child, he's growing up so fast. Rongxinglan caressed her tummy. She could feel the aura of the fetus in her tummy becoming stronger. Now, it should be a stage 3 world deity. Mother, I was born after 15 years in your womb. Little brother's innate talent is much higher than mine, and I'm afraid he will stay longer. The green-robed girl by the side was filled with expectations too, because every disciple with a high status in the Ardent Fire Marquis Dom would have a large group of wives. Hence, even if they were brothers and sisters, they would not know each other, and their relationship would be even weaker. Usually, those who had the same mother would have a better relationship. Because of the secret technique, It was not bad for a woman to give birth to 2 or 3 powerful children in her lifetime. In my opinion, your little brother should be able to stay in my womb for more than 50 years, or even 80 years. Rong Xinglan's eyes brightened. She saw hope after living a mediocre half of her life. He will be nurtured to perfection. He might even be able to drink more Seventh Dawn Spirit Scented tea. A bowl of Seventh Dawn Spirit Scented tea was sent over every year. The longer one stayed in the womb, the more he would drink. Instead, the Marquis d'Am was more than willing to do so because staying longer in the womb represented a greater potential and a stronger bloodline. In the history of the Ardent Fire Marquis d'Am, there were quite a few who were true gods the moment they were born. There were even some who were true god rulers after being nurtured for 100 to 200 years in the womb. In the Southern Cloud Nation, in other aristocratic clan, there were some who were void gods after staying in the womb for several hundred years. In the primal chaos void, where Dongbua Shui Ying came from, there were some extremely heaven-defying void creatures who were void gods the moment they were born. Your little brother will most likely be a true god the moment he is born. His cultivation will be even faster in the future. The Madame Rong Xinglan rubbed her stomach. Her face was filled with radiance. During the 9th year of pregnancy, Rong Xinglan was startled to discover that the aura of the fetus in her stomach had risen once again. It had reached the true god level. He has become a true god? Rong Xinglan was incredibly excited. It seems the bloodline of my son is extremely formidable. Even though his father, Ying Shanlai, who was relatively trash and was the son of Marquis Ardent Fire, he was only a true god ruler. His mother, Rong Xinglan, was even weaker at the world deity realm. But according to logic, their children should be weak too. Yet there were times when they would erupt into absolute geniuses. After all, bloodline inheritance would occasionally erupt. In Rong Xinglan's opinion, her son clearly had an extraordinary bloodline. Madam, the Seventh Dawn Spirit Scented tea sent over by the residents. It was another batch of Seventh Dawn Spirit Scented tea that was sent over once a year. The female servant pushed open the courtyard door and brought in a wooden tray. There was a cold old man standing outside the courtyard. My mother is slightly tired. Send her in. The green-robed girl shouted out from outside the house. Drink it in the courtyard. The cold old man outside the courtyard coldly said. The Seventh Dawn Spirit Scented tea had to be drunk by pregnant women. This was the rule of the Marquis d'Am. Because the large group of women in the Marquis d'Am had low statuses, they could not afford a bowl of Seventh Dawn Spirit Scented tea, even if they saved up their entire lives. The Marquis d'Am was afraid that these pregnant women would not drink it and would instead sell it. Hence, they had to personally see them drink it. Yes, even though Rong Xinglan was unwilling, she still came out. She quickly received the Seventh Dawn Spirit Scented tea and drank it before entering the house. Stand there. The cold old man roared. Rong Xinglan trembled. The expression of the cold old man changed slightly. He turned around and left. Rong Xinglan and the green-robed girl stood side by side as they watched the cold old man leave. Their faces were filled with anxiety. We are in trouble. We have been discovered. The green-robed girl transmitted. I knew that as long as we came out, we would not be able to hide. That old man will definitely discover us. Rong Xinglan gritted her teeth. The difference between a world deity and a true god's aura was huge. The fetus in her womb had become a true god, while Rong Xinglan was merely a world deity. She could not conceal the aura of the fetus in her womb at all. Would the eldest madam do something? The green-robed girl was worried. I'm not afraid. The Marquis d'Am places great importance on every single fetus of the direct bloodline. The moment they act, it would be a huge crime. Rong Xinglan gritted her teeth. Furthermore, I will risk my life to protect my son. She, Rong Xinglan, had been mediocre for half her life. In the past, she was merely an ordinary and weak girl in the Ardent Fire City. She could only swallow her anger when she was snatched away by that aristocratic family disciple with an extremely high status. She could only swallow her anger when she was bullied by the eldest madam. But today, she had revealed her weak fangs for the first time in her life, all for the sake of protecting her child with boundless prospects. No one could destroy their own child. Chapter 10:12. In the hall, the woman in red sat and stared at the old man who was standing respectfully to the side. You're saying that the baby in Rong Xinglan's womb is already a true god? The red-robed girl's gaze was cold. The temperature in the hall had fallen rapidly, and the old man felt his heart trembling. Even though he was a void god at the origin birth realm, the eldest madam had long reached the unity realm. She was even more powerful, and killing her was as easy as flipping her hand. Yes, the old man's heart trembled slightly. There's no way I'm mistaken. If I remember correctly, she has only been pregnant for 9 years, the woman in red said indifferently. Yes, the old man nodded. It seems like she's really lucky to have such a child with Lai Hu. His talent is so high. You have really made a great contribution to our marquee manor. The red-clothed woman smiled and said, help me visit her and send some gifts over so that she can take good care of the fetus. Right now, the fetus in her belly is the most important thing. No matter what, he is still Lai Hu's child. The old man was a little surprised. Gifts? Year after year, the eldest madam was truly kind. She would arrange for her subordinates to send gifts to Rong Xinglan almost every month. Rong Xinglan was also very careful. She did not even dare to eat or drink what the eldest madam sent. However, when he arranged for his daughter to sell the gifts, he discovered that they were all precious treasures and had been sold for a high price. First madam didn't seem to have any ill intentions. In the blink of an eye, Rong Xinglan had already been pregnant for 15 years, and the aura of the fetus in her womb had already reached the level of a true god. Reporting to madam, this year's 7th Dawn Spirit scented tea has been drunk by Rong Xinglan. The old man returned to report. Little sister Xinglan, is the baby in your womb doing well? The red-clothed woman smiled. They're all right. They're still at the level of a true god venerable, the old man said. Yes, I'll go get some gifts from the deputy steward. The red-robed girl laughed. At the same time, she transmitted a message into the old man's soul. Remember, this time, the bottle of spiritual medicine that I sent over must be drunk by that slut Rong Xinglan. You must drink it. The old man's heart trembled. Not good. Although he had given her gifts many times before, he had never forced her to drink them. As for the 7th Dawn Spirit scented tea, that was the rule of the Marquis's estate. But now, the gift from the eldest madam was forcing Rong Xinglan to drink it. The old man was not stupid at all. Madam, you can't do that. The Yingshan clan has strict rules, and this is a huge crime. The moment you are discovered, you will be executed. The old man replied through his soul. He didn't even dare to say it out loud, fearing that the first madam would kill him out of anger. After all, first madam had only sent him a soul message. There was no way she could use it against him. Manager Tian, either your entire family dies, or you listen to me obediently. Don't worry, after that bitch Rong Xinglan drinks it, the fetus in her womb will be fine. At most, it will suffer from some innate damage and become slightly mediocre. The red-robed girl transmitted, you are just a mediocre disciple. It is unknown how many there are in the Ardent Fire Marquisdom over the trillions and trillions of years. Nobody would care about you. Furthermore, I have arranged a treasure that can influence time-space for you. Even time reversal can forget about discovering what you have done. All right, it is up to you whether you want to do it or not. The elder felt bitter in his heart. Now that he knew everything, would he dare to refuse? If he refused, it would be silent, and his entire family would be wiped out. Even though he had done many bad deeds in the past, violating the rules of the Yingshan clan still caused his heart to tremble. Yes, this old servant will definitely not disappoint madam. The old man transmitted. Go. The red-robed girl chuckled. Help me send my regards to little sister Xinglan. Yes, the old man said. He immediately left. The red-robed girl watched silently. Killing intent surged in her heart. Humph, what a bitch. I did not treat her as a threat at all, yet the fetus in her womb is so formidable. The moment he is born, he will definitely take away many resources from my lineage. The resources under her husband's name had long been treated as her own. Indeed, many shops, cavern dwellings, and lands were managed by her people. She could only give them to her own child. As for other threats, they had to be eradicated as soon as possible. When the fetus in that bitch's womb grows up, I'll find a chance to let him die silently outside. And Manager Tion, after I settle this matter, I'll let him die too. The red-robed girl thought. The old man arrived at the small courtyard of Rongxing Lan. Manager Tion. Rongxing Lan brought her daughter and female servant with her. They greeted him. "Ha! I've come to deliver some gifts under Madam's orders." The old man chuckled. With a wave of his hand, a basket appeared. There were quite a few gifts in the basket, and he handed it over. Rongxing Lan also received it with a smile. After all, this Manager Tion had sent many gifts over the years without any problems. The old man had just passed the basket over when he flipped his hand, and another black jade bottle appeared. He smiled. This jade bottle contains an extremely precious spiritual liquid that Madam has prepared for you. Come, drink it. Thank you, Madam. Rongxing Lan also extended her hand to receive it. Such a precious spiritual liquid. Don't sell it to others. You have often sold the gifts that Madam has given you. The old man chuckled. You should drink it directly. As he said that, a formless energy spread out and bound Rongxing Lan. He was about to feed it to her. Rongxing Lan was shocked. 6 years had passed, and the dagger was finally revealed? No. Rongxing Lan struggled. She could feel the fetus in her womb growing stronger. She thought about how her son would be dazzling in the future. How could she drink the spiritual liquid in the strange black jade bottle? Stop! The green-robed girl by the side, Yingshan, was greatly startled. Even though she knew that there were many dark and cruel matters within the aristocratic clan, she had never thought that it would involve the fetus of the direct bloodline. This was an iron law set by the entire Yingshan clan. Those who dared to act against the fetus would definitely be punished with death. She who was slightly cowardly and cowardly directly acted. Hong! The old man casually waved his hand, causing the green-robed girl, Yingshan, to fall heavily onto the ground by the side. She was even suppressed by the unseen energy and could not move at all. Yingshan shouted out, "This is a death crime, a death crime. If you want to do it, come at me. Don't do this to my child. He is yet to be born. He is yet to be born." Rongxing Lan was filled with terror. Her eyes were filled with pleading as she looked at the old man in front of her. The old man remained incomparably cold. "Don't blame me. I want to live too. My family wants to live too. If you want to blame someone, blame the eldest madam." Goo goo goo. The spiritual liquid in the black bottle was directly poured into Rongxing Lan's mouth. Rongxing Lan's mouth was forcefully opened by an unseen energy, and the spiritual liquid was directly sent in. Rongxing Lan felt despair and agony. Tears streamed down her face. Why, she even had the determination to use her life to protect her child. But it was futile no matter how hard she tried. The female servant by the side was trembling as she watched. Seeing this scene with her own eyes, she felt horrified and uneasy. This was a huge crime. "Don't worry." The old man looked at the female servant and transmitted, "Just act as if you have not seen anything. The time-space here has been distorted, and you can't even see the reversal of time." After finishing feeding her, the old man kept the black jade bottle before leaving. Rongxing Lan softly fell onto the ground. Her face was filled with tears. Her eyes were filled with despair. Why did you do it to me? Why did you do it to my child?" "Mother." Yingshan came over and hugged her mother. "Can you expel that venom out? It's useless. It's useless." Rongxing Lan shook her head. "The moment I drink it, it will rapidly permeate through my entire body. I can't resist it at all." "Not good." Rongxing Lan held onto her stomach. "I feel that I am about to give birth. I am about to give birth." Yingshan was greatly startled. She was about to give birth? So vicious that you were actually forcing it out. Yingshan Shiyu immediately brought her mother back to the house and closed the door in preparation for giving birth. That's right, they were about to give birth prematurely. But Rong Xinglan and her mother had wrongly blamed the eldest madam. The venom arranged by the eldest madam would only harm the innate foundation of the fetus in her stomach. It would not cause the fetus to be born immediately. It was Dongbua Shui Ying's decision to give birth immediately. Damn. Dongbua Shui Ying, who was in his mother's stomach, cultivated the void. He could vaguely sense what was happening in the outside world. His eyes were about to pop out. I can't wait any longer. If I do, I wonder what will happen. Even though the venom was rapidly permeating through the fetus, it was about to invade his body. But Dongbua Shui Ying rapidly shrank his body. After all, it was easy for a true god to change his body size. He cut off the connection between him and the fetus. He prevented the venom from reaching him. Get out. He even controlled the void to force the fetus to be born. Rong Xinglan felt her stomach aching. Lying on the bed, Rong Xinglan still wanted to endure. She wanted the child to stay in her stomach for a longer period. That's right, it has to be born. Rong Xinglan's face was filled with tears. Her hair was also wet. That eldest madam is too vicious. Yingshan Shiyu felt anxious too. Come out. Rong Xinglan extended her hand into her stomach. Oh, following that, she pulled out a meatball. That plump meatball landed on the bed. To world deities, it was extremely simple to let the child come out. That red plump meatball had golden inscriptions revolving on it. This was also a secret technique used to nurture the fetus, allowing the fetus to be sufficiently strong. Activate. Dongbua Shui Ying, who was in the plump meatball, once again activated the bloodline in his body. His realm had long reached the required level. Previously, it was just that he did not want to cause a huge commotion and had been absorbing the world energy gently. Now that he was about to be born, his goal was to shock the world. Naturally, he began activating the void bloodline in his body. It's a pity that he had only cultivated for a decade or so and had only activated the tip of the iceberg of his void bloodline. One could see the golden inscriptions on the surface of the plump red meatball exploding with a dazzling light. At the same time, the world energy in the sky surged over, forming an enormous maelstrom-light pillar that poured into the plump meatball. The old man who left the small courtyard to report to the eldest madam abruptly turned to the distance. He looked at the world energy maelstrom in the sky with great shock. Who is so unbridled to dare to absorb the world energy within the marquisdom so wantonly? Even if he wants to cultivate, he should be in closed-door cultivation. That is, that golden light? The ardent fire marquisdom was incomparably vast. Experts were as common as clouds. Many experts within the marquisdom could sense this place from afar. They could also see the faint golden light under the surging maelstrom-light pillar. That is the golden light of the birth of an infant. Why is it so intense? The array spirit within the ardent fire marquisdom felt the disturbance. Naturally, it activated the array and descended to this small courtyard to investigate. Discovering the situation, it immediately transmitted the news to all the higher-ups in the ardent fire marquisdom. The son of Yingshan Lai, who has been born. He is a void god, and his mother is Rong Xinglan. The moment this news spread, the entire ardent fire marquisdom was shaken. At the same time, this news spread across the entire Yingshan clan. The ardent fire marquisdom was merely a branch of the Yingshan clan, and the birth of such an outstanding disciple from the Yingshan clan would naturally startle the entire Yingshan clan. Chapter 10:13. The ardent fire marquisdom had existed for 1,000,000,000,000 years. Experts were as common as clouds, and those qualified to be considered as the upper echelon of the entire marquisdom were only Marquis Ardent Fire and the elders. The requirements to become an elder of the ardent fire marquisdom were extremely harsh. If it were a disciple from the Yingshan clan, he would have to reach the God Yuan Palace 5th level strength before he was qualified to become an elder. Naturally, There were exceptions like the 36 children of Marquis Ardent Fire. They were after all the biological children of Marquis Ardent Fire, and their statuses were slightly more unique. Even Ying Shanlai, who was merely a true god ruler, could obtain a huge portion of resources. As long as the children of Marquis Ardent Fire reached the Unity Realm, they could become elders. Also, honored guests that came from outside had to rely on the Ardent Fire Marquisdom and be completely loyal to the Ardent Fire Marquisdom. Only then would they be truly nurtured by the Ardent Fire Marquisdom. They had to at least reach the God Yuan Palace 6th level before they could become elders. What? He is a void god at birth. This should be the only person who was born a void god in our Ardent Fire Marquisdom, right? His father is Ying Shanlaihu. Ying Shanlaihu, the second son of Master Ho. How can he have such a powerful child? The Doyens were all shocked. They did not think highly of Ying Shanlaihu. After all, cultivators still valued strength, and he was merely a true god trash. As for Rong Xinglan, they had never even heard of such a person before. Now, this trash had a child with a woman whom they had never heard of before, and the child was actually a void god at birth. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Many streams of light rushed into the sky from various locations within the Ardent Fire Marquisdom. They were rapidly flying towards this desolate little courtyard. Because the Ardent Fire Marquisdom occupied a huge area, and there was an array suppressing the cultivator from teleporting. Flying over would require some time. Actually, even if they could teleport, there were few at the Unity Realm who could do so. The suppression from the Realm Heart Great Land was much stronger than the suppression from the Primal Chaos Void. The 5 great sacred worlds of the Primal Chaos Void were ultimately broken pieces or created by cosmos gods. It could not be compared with the Realm Heart Great Land. This is the child. Those who were relatively close to this remote courtyard arrived in just a few breaths of time. They stood in midair and looked at the round red meatball that had caused a huge vortex of heaven and earth energy to form in the small courtyard. There were countless golden patterns on this red meatball, and they were all shining brightly, dazzling, and resplendent. The 2 elders who arrived first, and some other experts within the Ardent Fire Marquisdom, who were attracted over by the commotion and did not know what was going on, were looking at that plump red fleshy ball with slight astonishment. That golden light was simply blinding their eyes. In their entire lives, it would be difficult for them to witness such a huge commotion at birth. The house was torn apart by the surging world energy, mainly because Rong Xinglan's status was too low. The house she was staying in was naturally ordinary. And at this moment, Rong Xinglan, her daughter, Ying Shan Shiyu, and that female servant were looking at that terrifying maelstrom of world energy in a daze, and that plump red fleshy ball that was releasing a golden light. The commotion startled them. Amen. There was a huge lake within the Marquisdom. There were many dragon beasts swimming within. By the shore, there was a red-haired male fishing there. His fishing rod was emitting many rings of unseen ripples that attracted those dragon beasts. Suddenly, he revealed a joyous look. He pulled the fishing rod, and an enormous violet dragon beast was fished up. This violet dragon beast struggled with all its might. It was terrified. Drag this violet-blooded dragon beast away and make it into a feast. The red-haired male chuckled. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly. He turned toward the corner of the entire Ardent Fire Marquisdom. That place was slightly more remote, but there was a dazzling maelstrom of world energy and a faint golden light, causing the red-haired male to reveal a joyous look. Following that, he received a transmission from the Array Spirit. Ying Shanlai, whose son has been born. He is a void god at birth, and his mother is Rong Xinglan. The red-haired male guffawed at that moment. Ha ha ha. His laughter was like rolling thunder that reverberated across the horizon. Lihu, that brat, is quite fertile. Becoming a void god at birth is something that has never happened in my Marquisdom Ardent Fire lineage. The red-haired male Marquis Ardent Fire was in a good mood. He casually swung his fishing rod, causing that violet-blooded dragon beast to fall back into the lake. Clearly, Marquis Ardentfire was in a good mood, allowing that violet-blooded dragon beast to escape this calamity. Go! The red-haired male Marquis Ardentfire directly teleported away. Being the highest ruler in the entire Marquisdom, even though the arrays suppressed and prohibited teleportation, he could easily control the arrays without being suppressed. And every single primal chaos giant could teleport, and they could easily rush over. Who? The red-haired male Marquis Ardentfire arrived in midair beside that small remote courtyard. Looking down at that round red fleshy ball that was releasing a golden light, and the house that was destroyed by the maelstrom of world energy, Marquis Ardentfire glanced at Rongxinglan, her daughter, and the female servant who were in a daze. It seems that the mother of this little prince of my Ardentfire Marquisdom is quite ordinary. Grandpa Marquis. The two elders who had already rushed over respectfully greeted. The other experts who were nearby were startled too. They felt their hearts trembling as they greeted. Grandpa Marquis. Grandpa Marquis? Rongxinglan, Yingshan Shiyu, and the female servant who were still in a daze saw the figures rushing over in midair, including that red-haired male. The surrounding people were respectfully greeting him as Grandpa Marquis. Rongxinglan and the others could naturally guess that this was the legendary existence in the entire Ardentfire Marquisdom, the primal chaos existence they had never seen before. Marquis Ardentfire? The elders were rushing over one by one. They were also passing down this important news. An unprecedented direct descendant of the Ardentfire Marquisdom was born as a void god. Such a huge matter would naturally spread like wildfire. The eldest madam, Chan Yu Yin-jun, had a status slightly higher than her husband within the Marquisdom. After all, she was at the God Yuan Palace 4th level strength and came from an aristocratic clan. Her eldest son had even reached the Unity realm. With her status, she naturally received the news very quickly. Little sister Yin-jun, congratulations. I've heard that this child who is a void god at birth is the child of your husband, Yingshan Lai Hu. Little sister Yin-jun. Yin-jun is the child of Yingshan Lai Hu and Rongxinglan. He is a void god at birth. Her network quickly received 3 pieces of news in succession. This caused the expression of the eldest madam, Chan Yu Yin-jun, to change. She was originally sitting in the hall waiting for Manager Tian to report back. What? Didn't Manager Tian send the medicine? Why did that lowly servant immediately give birth to a child? Furthermore, he is a void god at birth. Wasn't he previously a true god paragon? The red-robed girl, Chan Yu Yin-jun, was truly panicking at this moment. Even with her heart realm, she could not control the change in her expression. One could see how terrified she was, because she was clear that a void godchild had never appeared in the Ardentfire Marquisdom before. Grandpa Marquis would most likely pay close attention to this matter. Even Ying Shan clan ancestral family would definitely send some higher-ups over. This was a huge matter for the entire Ying Shan clan. The moment they discovered what she did she want to do to the unborn child? She would be dead. The red-robed girl gritted her teeth before rushing out. Her figure had turned into an illusion. After all, the lineage of her husband, Ying Shan Lai Hu, was staying in this region. If Manager Tian were to return, she could easily guess the route he would take. She would then rush over. Very soon, just 10 breaths of time later, the red-robed girl saw Manager Tian, who was currently walking over. Madam, Manager Tian respectfully greeted the moment he saw the madam. The gift has been sent. His identity was low. Even though he was a manager, he was still a servant. He did not know that the child in Rongxinglan's stomach had been born, and that it was a void god. Oh, the red-robed girl chuckled. I'll go and see little sister Xinglan. Saying that, she brushed past Manager Tian. Manager Tian stood at his original position in a daze. After that, his body began shattering soundlessly. He turned into nothingness, leaving behind only the remains of items. You dare to defy me? Plot against me? Die. The red-robed girl coldly laughed. But everything was a performance. She was doing this to prevent the matter from being exposed, allowing an ultra-strong expert to investigate everything. Hence, she had already begun destroying all evidence. This trash even said that the gift has been sent. If it has been sent, how could that Rong Xinglan give birth to a child who is so powerful? That lowly servant has gotten lucky. But with her lowly identity, she might not dare to complain to Grandpa Marquis and the elders. The red-robed girl was looking forward to this matter not being exposed. But she could not place her hopes on others. How can I, Chanyu Yinjun, fall just like this? The red-robed girl was proud and arrogant. After all, she was just a step away from becoming an elder in the residence. Previously, she had been relatively cautious when doing such a huge matter. At this moment, she was trying her best to recall and cover up all flaws. Naturally, the biggest flaw was that Manager Tion had been eliminated. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.